Part 25. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 241. Forest. The leaves swayed with the breeze, and the rustling sound was like a whisper. Wayne stood in the forest with his eyes closed, stroking the ring on his index finger, listening to the whisper, and feeling the ubiquitous vitality and vigor. There were two rings on Wayne's hand, a fire element ring with a high affinity for the element, and a thinking ring given by Senna. There was nothing much to say about the former, because the third-party business ability was too poor, which lowered Wayne's affinity for the fire element. The latter was very interesting, with the magic power of communicating with nature, which could strengthen the holder's faith magic, while reducing the consumption of thinking and magic power, and making the manifestation of magic more powerful. The magician's thinking and magic power decreased, and the power of magic remained constant as before, or even stronger. Question: what is added to the formula? Wayne thought about it for a night, and the answer was the effect of the ring communicating with nature, and the formula was added with nature. The ring may not be strong, but nature is strong. With the power of nature, a casual perfunctory approach is enough to turn the formula into a puff. Wayne thought about it all night. Is there a possibility that the ring, like his fire element ring, seriously reduced the power of nature? Nature could have injected more, but because the ring was too tight, the output was reduced, and the milk oatmeal was downgraded to puffs. Wayne had wanted a bowl of oatmeal for a long time. This has always been his small goal. He had no idea before, and it still didn't work after transforming into an elf. There was always something missing. Now, just barely enough, but still something is missing. What is missing? Wayne rubbed the ring. Regardless of what was missing, remember the feeling at the moment. After becoming proficient, put aside the ring, and maybe you can really get nature's oatmeal. Puffs, who wants puffs when there is oatmeal? Wayne nodded repeatedly. This question is not difficult to choose. Not to mention him, if it were Philomena, Mona, or Chris, they all knew that oatmeal is large and filling. The woods rustled, and Wayne squatted on the ground to study the mottled light and shadows. The sunlight passed through the leaves and sprinkled on the ground to form a sloppy, complex, disordered and illogical pattern. Wayne firmly believed that this was a kind of text, a message from nature to convey its own voice. Throughout the year, day and night, the scenes of nature were changing, and the messages conveyed were also changing. He spread out a wisp of thought, without outputting magic power, communicating the effects of nature through the ring, and performing the magic of faith in nature. In front of him, the withered and yellow grass leaves slowly raised their heads, as if stretching their arms to the sky and embracing the sun. The greenness became thicker, and the dead grass and trees were rejuvenated. Wayne could not bring the dead back to life, that was not something that humans could do. He regarded the forest in front of him as a whole, a community of consciousness composed of countless lives, conveying the desire for survival of the withered grass, and getting the joint assistance of other consciousnesses, so as to obtain nutrients and protection. Balance. Wayne once again felt the importance of balance. The magician was balanced, the forest was balanced, and it spread to the entire nature, and even the entire void universe, everything was balanced. The ring is just a prop for communication. No, the speaker, forcing the microphone to open allows me to communicate with nature and remember this feeling. I can do it without the ring, but after all, it was forced, and nature was reluctant. This bowl of oatmeal porridge was a bit perfunctory, and the milk did not cover the oatmeal. Wayne did not want a married middle-aged nature, he wanted a nature that was eager to explore the true meaning of life, preferably a sports student. So, what's missing? Wayne's body shape changed, turning into a 2-meter-tall elf, and his clothes were transformed from black-scale combat uniforms, without the embarrassment of bursting clothes. The mind spread out, and the surrounding grass and trees resonated with it, turning into a green field with Wayne as the center. There was no fluctuation of magic, only the exchange of thoughts. Wayne opened his light green eyes and looked at a forest bird not far away. The bird jumped back and forth on the branch and tilted its head to look at Wayne. "Bird, this tree is short and ugly, not suitable for nesting." Wayne slowly stretched out his hand, and his thoughts flashed through his mind. The forest bird flapped its wings and landed on his fingertips. He lowered his head and pecked twice. Behind him, the sound of light footsteps came, and the figure of a prehistoric monster flashed in the eyes of the forest bird. It frightened and flew away, screaming continuously. Veronica stared blankly at the surrounding alive forests. The surging vitality made her fascinated. She walked quickly to the side of the elf and stared at the delicate and beautiful face without blinking. "Although, it's really beautiful." Wayne turned back to his original appearance and sighed, "Look at what you did. We were just a little bit away from having turkey tonight." "Let the turkey go, it's still a child," Veronica complained, and then said with great interest, "Wayne, I want to learn this." "Which one? Become an elf?" "It's impossible to become an elf. Veronica has dragon blood. The life level of dragons is higher than that of elves. She will never become an elf in her life." Veronica knew this very well, and she felt a little regretful, but it didn't matter. She couldn't turn into an elf, but Wayne could, so she could do it. "I want to learn that magic just now." Veronica didn't know how to describe it. The powerful vitality made her intoxicated. With the fighting style of dragon blood, she had a perpetual motion machine. This is more complicated to learn, and it requires a lot of talent. Wayne couldn't describe it, but he knew what was going on. Talent was important, but the key was to cheat. Veronica had talent, but she didn't cheat, so she couldn't learn it. "Forget it, idleness is idleness, just treat it as progress." "What progress?" "Turning down your progress." Veronica's face fell, and without thinking, she punched Wayne in the face. During tea time, Veronica received an invitation from Dussa next door to go to Villa number 8 to make snacks together. In the living room, the sunshine warmed the older boy and the melancholy young man sitting opposite each other. When the snacks were served, each of them had one in front of the two brothers. Alex didn't share her sister's snack, and neither did Wayne. The former is well aware of his sister's craftsmanship and can just suffer the consequences himself. There is no need to hurt more people. The latter is purely selfish and refuses to share snacks with outsiders even if Veronica's craftsmanship is average. The two dinner plates were licked clean, and both sisters were very satisfied. Alex took out a handkerchief to wipe his mouth, making people suspect that the reason for his chronic depression was because his sister ate too many snacks. Dussa kicked Alex, who slowly spoke, "Wayne, as allies, do you think it is necessary for us to become familiar with each other's strengths?" "It is necessary." Alex has a calm and gentle personality, a standard low-desire person. Wayne could have guessed with his toes that the proposal to spar came from Dussa. The ally wanted to show off his muscles, and Wayne also wanted to do so, so he readily nodded in agreement. The four of them left the villa, and Alex used his faith magic to clear the surrounding vegetation and organize a square arena. The two sisters did not appear on the stage. In this round of bodyguard wrestling, they were responsible for cheering on the sidelines. Dussa, "My brother is amazing." Veronica, "My brother is better." Dussa, "Like your brother, my brother can hit 100. Veronica, "My brother can hit 1,000. The dialogue was a bit childish, but it fit their innocent personas, and because they were ladies, my brother didn't dare to speak violently. As the proposer of the competition, Alex briefly explained the rules. The discussion was to end at the end of the competition, so as not to hurt the harmony, but in order to stimulate each other's desire to win, a bonus should be added. The loser provides the winner with information about the selection of a saint. Wayne saw the postman in Villa number 8, and Dussa also saw the postman in Villa number 4. There were people above them all, so we might as well take the opportunity to share information with each other. Everyone depends on their abilities. If you want more information, let your strength speak for itself. Veronica glanced at Wayne. For the sake of century-old friendship, she must win, and she must always win. The Dragon Blood girl's desire to win is too strong. Wayne shrugged and stretched his hands and feet on the spot. You can't use faith magic, and you can't use weapons. Alex, is this really okay? It doesn't feel fair. It's really not fair. Alex smiled coquettishly. His sister's request was too bullying. He bit the bullet and said, "That's it? You will make the rules for tomorrow's competition." The honest man was so honest that Wayne couldn't help but want to bully him severely. He smiled and said, "Since you are so confident, I will take action first. Is that okay?" Without. Boom. An afterimage flashed before Alex's eyes, and he hurriedly crossed his arms to defend himself. A fist hit his face, and he flew backwards, straight out of the ring, and disappeared into the woods behind. So fast. The power is so strong. Is this guy really human? Dussa was stunned for a moment, and began to speculate about Wayne's bloodline. Based on the Frank Division's investigation, she obtained general information about Veronica, but most of Wayne's information was blank. Veronica's information is easy to investigate. Before he became the High Priest of the Windsor Division, he was the leader of the Frank Division Scalpel Agency. The Dragon's Blood is good at fighting and is extremely powerful. The Frank Division has He's files, and by following the investigation, Veronica's information is basically available. Wayne's information. A natural church pastor, part-time detective, actor, the male protagonist of the movie King Kong, and a suspected couple with Frank's popular female singer Lily. When she got this information, Dussa felt bad. What a mess. Who cares about Wayne's rumored girlfriend? What she wants is Wayne's identity in the magical world. Also, no wonder he speaks Frank so well, it turns out he is related to a big star. If you can't find it, you can't find it. Wayne is too low-key in the magical world. It is impossible for Frank to find out the identities of Death Knights and angels. Regardless of these, Wayne is not a magician born in the system. He became a monk halfway and only came into contact with magic last year. It had only been 1 year, not counting 2.5 years as a trainee. In addition, Austin and he were well hidden, so it would be too difficult to investigate his traces in the magic world. Since it is impossible to investigate, conduct on-site inspections. Dussa is very curious. Veronica has dragon blood, and how powerful a person who can act as a bodyguard for dragon blood is. He is really strong. Alex walked out of the woods shaking his head, but before he could stand still, he was punched away again. Not only strong, but also ruthless. Alex was pressed to the ground and rubbed for a while. Kong had good martial arts skills and was proficient in dozens of fighting techniques. Because his life essence was crushed, he couldn't find a chance to use it. Even if he uses magic power and strengthens his physical fitness, he can still be easily controlled. Veronica, brother, you also has dragon blood. Dussa opened her mouth, seeing that Alex had no power to fight back, so she could only make this assumption. Well, he has dragon blood. Veronica nodded seriously and readily admitted. Really? If you agree so straightforwardly, you must be lying. Dussa frowned, but when you introduced yourselves, it was clear that you were half-sisters, and Mr. Landau's predecessor was also a dragon blood owner. Well, he has a dragon blood collection habit. What the hell is a dragon blood collection habit? It's ridiculous. Let's not talk about anything else. Can your father bear it? Never mind whether he can bear it or not, he is still alive. Veronica smiled secretly. According to Wayne, bullying honest people is not worthy of pride, although it is really fun, but cheating smart people is a skill. She tasted the joy of cheating smart people and was very happy. 2 minutes later, Alex, who was at his wit's end, admitted defeat and surrendered, and asked his sister to treat him with a bruised face. I don't know if Wayne's fist was equipped with a positioning system, or his face was equipped with a positioning system. There was no injury to other parts, but his face was swollen. Dussa felt a little distressed, too hateful, she had never done such a heavy hand. What did I say? It's unfair. You have to. Wayne looked apologetic. He put aside his desire to help others and respected the fate of others. He continued, according to what you said, I will set the rules for the competition tomorrow. I choose to keep the rules unchanged and follow today's rules. Dussa protected her brother and took a deep breath and said, don't waste time. I will give you 2 pieces of information directly. How can that be? I don't want to bully the weak. I just want to get the information with my hands. Wayne sticks to his principles and doesn't accept begging. What a thick face. If you were a woman, the saint would be you. Dussa rolled her eyes. She didn't want her brother to be beaten again tomorrow. She took out 3 pieces of information in exchange, which made Wayne give up in disappointment. The first test is the magic barrier nightmare corridor, created by the Great Prophet. It can distort reality and dreams, project fear, cast illusions, and dig out the ugliness deep in people's hearts. Dussa told the information. Where are the 3 pieces of information that were promised? Why is there only 1? Veronica was puzzled and turned to look at Wayne. If you don't understand, ask the social trash. He must understand. Wayne understood. He split 1 piece of intelligence and got 3 pieces of information. The nightmare corridor and the ability of dreams, these are 2 pieces of information. The most critical piece of information is that the Great Prophet is standing behind Alex and his sister, and the postman who delivered the express is the Great Prophet's man. Be bolder. It is very difficult to enter and exit the manor without telling other senior executives. Senna had to deliver the express in person, so the postman was the Great Prophet. So, what is the way to crack the dream? Wayne asked. Exchange an equivalent piece of information. I'll tell you. Dussa was also very straightforward. Forget it, let's talk about it in a few days. Wayne shook his hand and left with Veronica, leaving Dussa stomping on the spot and kicking her brother hard. It's all your fault for being so kind. You lost twice. Wayne was very happy when he heard the angry voice behind him. Veronica was also a little happy. She raised her eyebrows and said, do you want to exchange information? The nightmare corridor sounds very powerful. You are so bad. The ugliness in your heart must be hidden from the public. The ugliness in your heart. Wayne raised his hand and touched his chin. He was more worried about the exposure of his inner secrets than the ugliness in his heart. Not to mention the distant ones, the high-level officials of the church headquarters were watching from the side. As soon as they stood firm, the Death Knight jumped out. The scene must be very beautiful. Wayne felt a pain in his balls just thinking about it. This nightmare corridor was quite disgusting. I'm asking you a question. What is the ugliness in your heart? Wayne didn't say it. Veronica was quite curious. I'm married, and the bride in the wedding dress is you. What kind of ugliness is this? Veronica blushed, her heart was filled with sweetness. She turned her head and looked aside, snorting, daydreaming, I won't marry you. I haven't finished yet. Besides you, the brides are Chris and Willie. Veronica. Bang. Wayne covered his face and gasped, compared to my boring ambition, what is the ugliness in your heart, me? No, you don't dare to fight back even in dreams. Veronica blinked, hesitated for a while and said, Mother said that dragon blood has a curse. The stronger our strength is and the higher our magic realm is, the more terrible the curse will be. Please tell me in detail. I am very curious about this matter. Wayne frowned, has the teacher's curse ever erupted? Is it because of the curse that she has not been able to break through the legendary realm? I don't know, Mother didn't say this. Veronica shook her head. Mother doesn't know the specific situation. If I have to talk about nightmares, I can only think of the dragon blood curse. Veronica briefly described the nightmare she could imagine: blood evolution, turning into a dragon in the dream, thinking can't keep up with the powerful body, and spewing fire everywhere. Whenever she met the dragon slayer Willy who came to challenge, she would hit her into the sky with her tail and turn her into stars. By the way, she locked the senior sister in the castle. Veronica didn't say the last part, just said that she turned into a dragon, because she had seen Megan's dragon form. The rendering material was perfectly loaded, and she was confident that the dream would be more real. Wayne touched his chin, and after a moment's silence, he said, "That shouldn't be the case. You turned into a dragon in my dream, so why didn't you lock me up in the castle?" "Because that was your dream, not mine." Veronica slapped the hand on her chin away. That made so much sense. Wayne couldn't refute it. The nightmare corridor could be passed by exchanging information, so it wasn't a big problem. He was particularly concerned about the dragon blood curse. The teacher has dragon blood, and Veronica also has dragon blood. The curse will erupt sooner or later. Perhaps the nightmare corridor is an opportunity to spy on the truth of the dragon blood curse and prepare for the future outbreak of dragon blood. Suddenly, Wayne thought of Senna. This dragon blood must also have a curse. I wonder if she has overcome it and what method she used. A woman who is 3 years older than her husband is rich. Senna is who knows how many years older, maybe 100 years older, which can be called a gold mountain. Although Wayne doesn't like her, he has to admit that the teacher's teacher is indeed something. If she can be treated as a true disciple by her, she will definitely get a lot of benefits. At least 50 years of detours can be avoided. Veronica, next time you see teacher Senna, be sweeter. She looks at me weird. Veronica tactfully expressed that she didn't like Senna very much. The latter looked at her as if she wanted to eat people. Wayne also had this look, but it was not the same way. "Forget it, I'll do it myself." Veronica's acting skills were average, so Wayne decided to do it himself. As he said this, he thought of his nightmares again, counting the Shura field, the exposure of his vest, and the fact that he was really Austin's biological son. These were not nightmares. Wayne asked himself what his nightmare was, and soon found the answer. On Dragonheart Island, the ancient god poked his head out and extended an invitation to him. "If I don't copy the answer and walk directly into the nightmare corridor, will the ancient god come down?" Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 242. The selection of the saint was easier than Wayne imagined. Every day he would either practice or be repaired by Veronica. Occasionally he would visit next door and press Alex to the ground and rub him. Alex was paralyzed, his sister couldn't be beaten, Wayne couldn't be beaten. Veronica never paid attention to him. Her already melancholy face was now full of pain, and she felt like she was going to die. On March 12, the first round of candidate selection officially began, rescuing the suffering Alex. On the afternoon of the 8th, magicians from the headquarters were constructing in front of the two villas number 4 and 8 respectively. They rang the bells all night. After repeated tests, they confirmed that the portal was operating correctly. Then it took another 4 days to start the first round of selection. Not to mention that Wayne had no intention of becoming a saint. Even if he did, his patience was worn out. The senior management of the headquarters was too procrastinating in doing things, so he was replaced as the Pope. The saints changed their clothes backstage and started to perform the show. Whoever scored the highest was elected. The saints could be selected in up to 3 days. He will give some clinical guidance, explain the luminous script to the candidates, delve into the depth of his acting skills, and broaden his acting skills, and then a qualified saint will be selected. It's very easy, it won't even take half a year. That is to say, the current communication means is average, otherwise Pope Wayne calls for a nationwide carnival, and every registered believer is eligible to vote. That is the real election grand occasion, and the two allies of the sun and moonlight are instantly compared to each other. Having said that, Wayne knew very well that the reason it took so long was because the senior management was assessing the candidate's intelligence. A saint can be a vase, but she must not be a fool. There are 2 villas and 4 people living next to each other. The deliberate arrangement must have a deliberate purpose. The choice of candidates is very important. Whether to deal with the most familiar competitors in advance or form an alliance to tide over the difficulties together is very particular. The portal opens, and behind it is the so-called nightmare corridor. Wayne stood in front of the portal, his mouth still and open, and said to Veronica, "Everything is going according to plan. I want to see your nightmare. The dragon's blood curse is very important. You can't copy the reference for this level." Answer. Veronica nodded. Opportunities are hard to come by. If the dragon's blood curse can be foreseen in advance, it will be of great significance to overcoming difficulties in the future. She firmly believes in Wayne's mind and strength, and even if the nightmare becomes a reality, society's garbage is still capable of being solved. Also, don't attack Alex and his sister. The nightmare corridor is a test for the 4 of us. If we have the answer to pass this level easily, it doesn't mean that we can easily handle the next levels. Wayne warned, "If I'm not wrong, the top management is too confused. There is no such thing as an arena competition for this year's selection of saints. All assessments and levels are based on a scoring system, and several candidates will be eliminated in each round. People, maybe there will be an Easter match, and finally let your fists do the talking. After all, this is the world of magic. No matter how good the topic is, it is not as convincing as a real fight. This is in line with the current situation of high-level games. Every candidate supported by high-level officials has an opportunity. They are screened at every level and benefits can be exchanged at every level. I just don't know how many meetings the senior executives sat down and how many pairs of shoes were thrown away in order to discuss the mechanism of this year's competition. Le.jpg. The 2 magicians from the headquarters checked again and after confirming that it was correct, handed over a life and death treaty for Wayne and Veronica to sign. The treaty did not disclose the location behind the portal. It only said that all risks were borne by the candidates themselves, and specific assessment items were up to the candidates to explore on their own. Wayne stepped into the portal first and entered the magic barrier, the nightmare corridor. As soon as you see it, the high black wall and the white ground form the entire world. The black wall towers into the clouds and reaches the end of the sky. It extends from the starting point and twists and turns to form a maze. Bang! Wayne punched out and hit the black wall. Spiderweb cracks spread rapidly and the entire wall was crumbling. It just won't fall. The next second, the entire wall automatically refreshed and recovered. There may be people watching around, so you can do an experiment to prove that you didn't bring a cheat sheet. Veronica followed Wayne in, and knowing the answer to the problem, she walked at the front, walked 300 steps along the twisting maze corridor, and faced her own nightmare. The world was spinning in front of Veronica's eyes. The black wall and white ground were quickly moving away. Her body fell to the ground like a cloud and mist. When she raised her eyes, Landau Manor came into view. She and Wayne were on the lawn in front of the manor house, and the black cat Monica was squatting on the lawn writing notes. "Come to the fore." The 2 men suddenly appeared, startling Monica. She jumped up in the air, pinched in mid-air, and after landing, her forepaws ran away, and they swooped into the woods. In the distance, you can still hear cursing sounds. X2. X2. Is it necessary to be so real? Wayne complained in his heart and slapped Veronica on the shoulder. "Remember, except for me, Everything you see now is a dream. Don't believe anyone except me, do you understand? Veronica nodded. Wayne had already used the solution to the problem and would not be trapped in a dream by the nightmare corridor. Everything in front of her was a distorted reality, a dream, and her own fantasy. Let's go into the house and see how real it is. The two entered the big house and walked around, not seeing a single maid. Not to mention the maid, the big house was empty, not even a ghost. Soon, the first survivor appeared. The study door opened, and Megan walked out slowly. When she met the young master and the young lady, she nodded slightly. After questioning, she explained that she was going to find Monica. Austin wants to pet the cat. Veronica looked into the study room. The big trash was sitting on the sofa reading a newspaper, playing with an ancient silver coin with one hand, and glanced at his children without responding. He is so arrogant, he deserves to be punished. He is not my nightmare. Veronica pondered for a moment and breathed a sigh of relief. Don't be afraid of you laughing at him. In my dream, he was crushed to death by a dragon. He died well. Wayne praised him out loud, took out a pistol from his arms, pointed it at Austin and pulled the trigger. Bang! Austin sat on the sofa in a daze, his eyes wide open, and the gun was smoking at the position between his eyebrows. A streak of black blood flowed down his cheek, dripping down, and gradually moistened the newspaper. What are you doing? Veronica was startled, looking at the big trash who was shot in the head. Even though she knew it was an illusion, she still couldn't help but palpitate. In case he is crushed to death by the dragon, I will kill him first. Wayne blew on the muzzle of the gun and winked. To be honest, I have wanted to do this for a long time. Veronica glared at Wayne fiercely and gritted her teeth and said, no matter what, he is your father. It's just an illusion. The real person will definitely not die. Veronica's eyes were too fierce. Wayne stepped back and hurriedly explained why he did this. At this time, the person who should not appear appeared. The figure of Sci-fi appeared at the end of the corridor. Veronica was shocked and stood in front of Wayne, fearing that he would draw his gun and shoot randomly, and shoot his mother without stopping. Even in a dream, you can't do it. Veronica, Wayne, what are you two doing? Where is the gunshot? Sci-fi walked closer and closer, smelling the smoke and blood in the air, and his face gradually became ugly. Without thinking too much, Wayne stuffed the pistol into Veronica's hand and whispered, you do this, I can't do it. If you can't do it, I can? Veronica was furious and smashed the pistol against the wall. At this time, Sci-fi had come to the door of the study. She was shocked by the bullet hole between Austin's eyebrows. She stood there stupidly, too shocked to even breathe. In the air, a bone-deep chill spread, and Wayne and Veronica shuddered together. Bang! A figure smashed the glass window and the wall, rushed into the study with murderous intent, and looked at the back of Austin, who stopped breathing, and his whole face twisted in an instant. Megan. Megan's eyes were scarlet, and her body swelled uncontrollably. The terrifying high temperature spread, and the dragon roar resounded through the sky. There were two murderous voices in total. Under Veronica's terrified gaze, it was not only Megan who turned into a dragon, but also her mother Sci-fi. Two giant dragons with a body length of more than 100 meters changed size at random, tearing up the paper like walls and rock walls, and the corridor and the ruins of the study fell to the first floor. Veronica trembled in fear, facing the anger of two giant dragons and close relatives, her teeth chattering, not knowing how to explain. It's all an illusion. Boom! The white dragon tail smashed down like a hill, brushing Veronica to the ground. The whistling wind shook the eardrums, blew away her golden hair, and cut her cheeks like a knife. Veronica vaguely heard the sound of broken bones and flesh. Her face turned pale for a moment, and turned around in a daze. The position where Wayne was covered by the dragon tail, the bright red blood spread, and a broken arm fell alone on the ground. Roar, roar, roar. The third dragon transformed, and Landau Manor ushered in an epic weakening, and was soon razed to the ground. Rightward arrow. Bang. Wayne knocked down the evil forces in front of him with a straight punch, stepped on his face, and said condescendingly, "Austin, remember, from today on, I am the head of the Landau family." The evil force Austin wanted to struggle, but was kicked on the butt by Wayne, and fell into the woods after crossing the arc of a banana ball. Megan carried the medicine box and trotted all the way to catch up. After solving the first generation of the evil forces in the family, the second generation Wayne walked towards He and Veronica on the sidelines. The two applauded and praised, and were optimistic that the Landau family would flourish in Wayne's hands. It turns out that the ugliness in my heart is so ugly, although it's very cool. Wayne was speechless. He and Alex chose to share intelligence because of the century-old friendship between the two countries. Both sides got the intelligence they wanted. Wayne got the answer to the nightmare corridor. Nightmares are inevitable, but they can be downgraded. He entered this dreamland according to the solution formula of turning big dreams into small dreams. The real nightmare, that is, the ancient god, Wayne does not want to summon. The risk is too great. God knows whether the ancient god will come for real. The previous second was still a dream, and the next second the ancient god came, took over the dream and turned it into reality, giving sugar without any difference, and offering good blessings to the headquarters of the Church of Nature. The next day, the Church of Death received great news from the sky. The Death Knight single-handedly killed the entire Church of Nature. I can't be happy at all. The big nightmare can't be done, the small nightmare is Austin, the big man who drove him out of London, causing him to be frightened for several months. This can be happy at will. Wayne got his revenge in the dream, waved his hand to disperse the illusion in front of him. He wanted to enjoy it for a while, but he was afraid that if he delayed too long, Veronica would have problems. It was still Landau Manor, or the big lawn in front of the woods. Wayne saw Monica, who was flirting, at a glance. Suck. The password was wrong and communication was unavailable. Monica ran away cursing. "Veronica, wake up, the sun is shining on your butt." Wayne pushed Veronica beside him and found that the latter was tense, with her fists clenched against her sides, her face grim, and tears flowing from her tightly closed eyes. He couldn't help but frown. So fast, in the blink of an eye, he fell into the depths of the dream. He clearly said that everything was an illusion and not to believe it easily. "Are you stimulated?" Seeing Veronica crying so miserably, Wayne didn't dare to delay. He lowered his head and pressed against Veronica's forehead, invading her mind and forcibly breaking into her nightmare. Roar, roar, roar X3. Wayne was startled when he appeared. The Landau Manor was devastated, with broken walls and ruins everywhere, and there was not a single wall that could support it. In the sky, 3 white dragons were fighting, and it was impossible to tell who was who. Wayne used his brain and guessed that the 3 dragons were Megan, SPHY, and Veronica. Teacher and Veronica can also turn into dragons. Is this Veronica's imagination, or is the key to dragon blood evolution the complete dragon form? Stop fighting. Wayne was talking loudly, and just after taking 2 steps, he found a pool of blood and a broken arm, and frowned immediately. What a handsome Xiao, very similar to mine. So Veronica went berserk. What is the source of the teacher and Megan's berserk? Wayne shrugged his nose and found Austin, who was dead with his eyes open, in the ruins in the corner. "Don't be afraid, it's just a small wound on the head, and he won't die." Wayne held Austin's shoulder and shook it. "Don't pretend to be dead, a scourge like you can't be killed by a bullet, it's too easy for you. Austin, say something." "Old Deng." Confirming that Austin was really gone, the filial son Wayne smiled with joy at the death of his father. He smiled and praised, "Who did it? That shot is really good. Tell me quickly, I will avenge you." "What do you mean by not talking?" Don't want me to help you get revenge. I understand. When will the revenge end? The past is the past. I can't tell. You can take it and let it go. You are a man with a broad mind. Go with peace of mind. The family will be handed over to me in the future. Wayne admired him very much. At this moment, Austin's figure became more majestic than ever before. It was a back figure that he could not catch up with in his entire life. Because he couldn't catch up, he didn't chase him. Headquarters of the Natural Church, Meeting Hall. Above is the blue dome with clear blue sky, below is the amber round lake with waves. White pillars are arranged on the left and right, connecting the sky and the ground to support this world. In the center of the pillar, a 10-meter-long white table stands horizontally, with several white high-backed chairs. All the high-ranking members of the Church of Nature were present. Although they were not present, their thoughts were present. The Pope sat at the head of the long table, opposite the great prophet, and the oracle high priests were on the left and right. There was no place for the saint. The great prophet was wearing a white robe, his face was blurred, and a mandrill was squatting beside him, scratching his ears. The crystal ball in front of him played the scene of the candidates entering the nightmare corridor. The candidates struggled and sank in the nightmare, showing their abilities and exposing their inner ugliness. Except for a few kind-hearted people, the others had defects to varying degrees. The great prophet was not here to select the saint, he was here to slap them in the face. The first selection made the high-ranking members embarrassed. As the great prophet pushed his hands away, the camera came to Wayne. To be precise, it was because Veronica's dream was too grand, and the 3 dragons at any time stunned the high-ranking members. White dragon. 3 of them, so many, it must be a nightmare of dragon blood. Where does so much dragon blood come from? According to the information, it is Veronica Landau from the Windsor district. Her mother is Sci-fi Valentine, the candidate of the last saint. It turns out that she is a student of High Priest Senna. No wonder, I was wondering where so much dragon blood came from, it turns out that it spread from here. Haha, that's great. Everyone was talking about it, and Senna was particularly angry. She was not there in person, but her mind was there. A ball of white mist rolled on her face, and her true appearance could not be seen clearly. At this time, Wayne entered Veronica's dream. How come this kid is so fast? His dream is too casual, 1 punch, let me see, the one he knocked down was his biological father, so funny, it seems that the relationship between father and son is not harmonious. In his sister's dream, he shot his father with 1 shot, fast, accurate, ruthless and steady. It can be seen that the bad relationship between father and son is well known, even his sister thinks so. No, I mean, his dream is so perfunctory, did the great prophet leak the questions? Everyone turned to tease the great prophet, and as they talked, they were amused by Wayne's stand-up comedy in the picture. Everyone laughed unscrupulously, not giving Senna any face. They all knew that the supporter behind Wayne and Veronica was Senna, and those who didn't want to laugh also laughed. Moreover, the father resigned and the son laughed, which was really filial piety. As they laughed, everyone found something wrong. Senna, who should have lost face, laughed happier than anyone else at this time. What's going on? This woman is finally crazy. She won't go berserk, right? Everyone was worried. Dragon blood going crazy was not just talk. It could really cause death. They were afraid of being involved, so they calmed down and didn't dare to laugh. Laugh, why don't you laugh? Senna spoke coldly, looking around at everyone, and then her eyes returned to Wayne. She was particularly satisfied with his performance. I thought he was Austin's son, and it was difficult to have a good impression of him with so many negative reviews. Unexpectedly, the father-son relationship was not harmonious, and the good impression came immediately. Full marks for this game. Senna swept away her previous disgust and had a good impression of her students. Although Wayne had repulsive blood flowing in his body, it was particularly pure, almost a one-to-one replica of 20 years ago, and Senna was annoyed wherever she looked, but Wayne repented in time and stopped at the brink. She was very happy. Thinking of the only seedling in 3 generations, Senna immediately recognized Wayne as her own disciple, thinking about sending some prizes to praise him after advancing to this level. Wayne could not become the son of God. It was too outrageous for the goddess to descend on the Son of God, but his mind was first class and extremely valuable for training. Senna planned to send Wayne to the Knights of Nature. If he could pass the assessment, she would spend a lot of effort to inject dragon blood into him, so as to complete a transformation. But first, she had to make sure whether this heir was worth training, so as not to be another rebellious ungrateful wolf. Just thinking about it, Wayne in the picture changed his figure, and everyone in the meeting hall held their breath. The Son of God. It seems that it is not impossible. The great prophet even slammed the table and stood up, his blurred face shining brightly, and he said as if he had found a treasure, "That's it, that's him, I want this person, no one can snatch it from me." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 243. Stop fighting. Wayne stood in the ruins and talked loudly. He didn't really understand Veronica's nightmare. He only saw that after all the men of the Landau family died, the women went crazy collectively. To put it in a good way, he was emotional, passionate, and dared to love and hate. He was a man of temperament. To put it in a bad way, he had intense emotional reactions, was irritable, easily emotional, and had extremely serious violent tendencies. Many previous examples can prove this point. Not to mention Veronica, Sci-fi said she would get married and run away from home. When she saw the intimate photos of Wayne and his mortal enemy student, she lost her mind on the spot and demanded an explanation. The men of the Landau family may be a little dark-hearted. There is a big trash can and a small trash can, but they really can't be gone. Without them, it is equivalent to deleting the limiter of dragon blood. Wayne howled twice, but the effect was average. The 3 dragons fought each other and didn't take him seriously at all. He tried to contact Veronica's thoughts, but because of the confusion of thoughts, he couldn't tell which of the 3 dragons was which. It's useless to reason with them, so we can only let them sit down and reason properly. Physical calm. Now it's my turn. Looking at the 3 white dragons, Wayne couldn't help but want to play cards, and raised his hand to get a field card, the natural domain. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and the 3 magic gems on his chest intersected, extracting the purest magic power, bringing in the divine formula to transform into a perfect elf. He was 2 meters tall, shining beautifully. The black suit that changed into a combat uniform changed with the body shape, setting off the slender figure. Except for the 2 rings that were a bit tight on the hands, there was nothing wrong with the other things. The mind was scattered, and the consciousness of the entire Landau manor reached unity, balance, tacit understanding, and harmonious coexistence. Every plant and tree resonated with Wayne. An indescribable breath enveloped the sky above the Landau manor, awakening from sleep, calm and full of vitality, and also with a trembling majesty. This breath filled every corner, from a plant to a big tree, balanced and without absolute prominence, together forming a balanced ecology. Wayne played the role of a communicator. Because of him, this piece of nature awakened a common consciousness. In the sky, the 3 dragons stopped fighting and stood together under the pressure of a common enemy. This space is Veronica's dream, which is projected and distorted by the nightmare corridor. Veronica is not the owner of the dream, but she is trapped in it and cannot extricate herself. She is also a part of the dream. The dream has no owner, No final right of interpretation. Wayne's thinking and ability can be displayed in this space. Although his imagination will not be greatly enhanced, he will not be suppressed. He can only exert 30% of his 120% strength. Roar, roar, roar x3. The three dragons flapped their wings and swooped down, blocking all the ways on three sides. As the wind howled, three figures covered the sky. The dragon opened its bloody mouth and spit out hot dragon breath, which was dazzling red and suffocatingly hot. The moisture in the air evaporated in an instant, and the destructive force spread in all directions. Wherever it passed, all life turned to ashes. The sound of the flames burning, the crackling sound of the trees being burned, and the deafening roar intertwined together, composing a symphony that devoured everything. Wayne's venue card was burned to ashes, and naturally it was no match for the flames. The Landau Manor was covered in a sea of fire, and no vegetation was spared. But the indescribable breath did not dissipate. On the contrary, it seemed to be sheathed and ready to go, hanging high above the dragon's head, making them more panicked and manic. Rumble. In the center of the sea of fire, the wind slowly rolled up, from small to large, and then it was unstoppable. The vortex of flames rose from the ground, dancing in the sky, distorting the air, and the hot breath rapidly contracted. Black rain clouds formed over the cooling Landau Manor, and drizzled down. On the parched earth, the charred remains of the burned forests can be seen everywhere. Wayne stood in the black ruins, raised one hand, and compressed the flame vortex to condense in the palm of his hand. The terrifying affinity of the fire element directly made the dragon's breath rebel and willingly serve him. Pa! The subtle sound of the soap bubble bursting exploded, and the flame in Wayne's palm turned into a wisp of flame and dissipated, returning to the element and returning to nature. He looked up at the sky, the light green light in his eyes flickered slightly, and he looked at the three white dragons carefully, picked the smallest one, raised his palm and clenched his fist, facing the target. Raised a middle finger. Roar 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 x3. Wayne's original intention was to provoke Veronica and use the opportunity of getting close to wake her up. Don't dream, Willie is in your fiancé's bed. The plan was good, and Veronica would definitely not be able to bear it, but the mother dragon was unreasonable. The three white dragons all raised their middle fingers in their eyes, and Wayne passively completed the gorgeous group ridicule. Three figures that covered the sky and the sun swooped down, spewing dragon breath from their mouths, and the flames crossed and descended, burning the earth with red streams of light and dark. Wayne stood intact in the center of the sea of fire. All the flames approaching him automatically returned to the fire element and returned to nature. He faced the bloody mouth of the white dragon and swung his fist with one hand. There was a loud bang. The swooping and gliding dragon roared in pain and was punched by Wayne. The scales on his lips were cracked in several pieces, the injury was terrible, and his gums were bleeding. The effect of this punch was outstanding, and the strong output of ridicule made the white dragon even angrier. He folded his dragon wings and crawled on all fours, like a white hill, pressing Wayne forward. Wayne changed his fists into palms and pushed the dragon with both hands, but was forced to slide backwards by the indescribable force. The size of both sides determines that their strength is not at the same level. Wayne can break the dragon's scales with a little bit of force, but facing the unreasonable bulldozer, he can only sigh in despair. The next second, both hands were broken, and the dragon's kiss pressed against his chest and pushed him to the ground. Good news, this white dragon is Veronica, and it is the first time she actively kisses Wayne. Bad news, it's too passionate, and Wayne's elf form can't bear it. Boom! Four thick vines rose from the ground, and the surging vitality exuded a bright green light. The four vines locked the dragon's neck, wrapped around the bottom and contracted, and then expanded with vitality, turning into a thick and powerful forearm. The big hand of nature broke out of the ground, clamped the white dragon and made it whine. Wayne knelt on one knee, his hands healed freely with the vitality, and suddenly clasped his hands together in front of his chest. Clap your hands, and you will get what you want. Rumble. More and more vines emerged from the ground, first the strong and powerful forearms, and then the whole arms. The vines formed muscle fibers, squirming and contracting, swinging the 100-meter-long dragon forward. Head to head, back to back, 3 white dragons fell to the ground like a pile of arhuts. Boom! The earth sunk into the impact crater, roaring and shaking. Dust and ashes flew all over the sky, sporadic flames rose high, and the shock waves visible to the naked eye spread around in the form of white waves. The 3 white dragons wailed at the same time. Wayne was sharp-eyed and found that the white dragon in his hand had a flash of eyes, and the madness faded and recovered some rationality. Physical calmness is indeed effective. Wayne tried to communicate with its mind, but was rejected, and swung it up and smashed it again. Wailing sounded, the earth shook continuously, and Veronica's eyes finally cleared. "Wayne, are you alive again?" "Nonsense, when did I die? It's all hallucinations. Where's your brain? It's on you, otherwise how can you be so smart?" Seeing Wayne's anger, Veronica didn't dare to reply loudly, and directly changed the subject, trying to get back the face for the few hits just now. "Now is not the time to talk about this, go back and follow your lead, kill them first." Wayne took a deep breath, controlled the giant hand of nature to throw Veronica into the air, and then jumped into the air and landed steadily on the back of the white dragon. Behind him, the surging fire elements gathered and turned into various weapons such as swords, spears, and halberds. Veronica copied Megan's dragon shape, and Wayne followed suit and copied his teacher Sci-fi's dragon knight shape. It's not that easy to tame dragon blood. Veronica has a trash can on her body, which makes her physically and psychologically uncomfortable. She flapped her wings in the air and turned over to press Wayne under her. "Don't be willful. This is a rare opportunity. You should master the dragon's body. This is very important for your evolution." Wayne's feet exuded magic power and stuck to Veronica's back. Dragon blood is soft but not hard. The harder you are, the harder she is. You must be obedient at this time. Wayne's dragon taming skills have made some progress. Under the guise of "for your own good," he reluctantly reached an agreement with Veronica and enjoyed the joy of being a dragon rider. "I have wanted to ride like this for a long time." Wayne was secretly happy. He rode the dragon 1 against 2, and with his powerful affinity for the fire element, the 2 white dragons on the opposite side were helpless. At the same time, he called on the nature in the field card to obey his orders. For a while, the horn of the general attack sounded, and the earth rumbled and swayed the waves like the tide, and countless vine roots broke out of the ground. Meeting room. The senior executives looked at the perfect elves in the picture and were all silent. The great prophet looked around at everyone and said with satisfaction, "Since no one objects, he is mine." "I object." Senna looked at Wayne with shining eyes, almost drooling, and said viciously, "Wayne is the student of my student. I only have 1 student, and my student also has only 1 student. I will not give him to you." "So what? The vassal of my vassal is not my vassal. Similarly, the student of your student is not your student." The great prophet pulled out a famous saying and refused to give in. To be, with Wayne's talent, he can definitely become the Son of God, the first Son of God in the history of the natural church. Senna also argued with reason. It was not until then that she remembered that when Sci-fi recommended the 2 candidates, she emphasized Wayne's talent, not Veronica's dragon blood. Senna didn't care at the time. As the owner of dragon blood, she was used to being arrogant and never cared about any talent. No matter how good the talent is, can it have more potential than the dragon? Now it seems that this is indeed possible. Sci-fi did not lie. Wayne's talent is higher than Veronica. The Church of Nature will not have a son. How do you think the goddess and the believers will see it? The great prophet refused to obey and put the cruel facts in front of Senna. The sun can be, but Senna has no power to break the rules. Just hand Wayne over to him and they can still be friends in the future. Otherwise, he will make up an oracle and Wayne will return to the temple of the prophet. Because it is a process, Senna will get nothing. The two stared at each other, and the great prophet was aggressive. You can see that he is so compatible with nature, which means that he was born with a mission. He is the most perfect successor to the great prophet. I have been waiting for so many years and have been waiting for him to appear. Nonsense, you already have two students. Virgil and Circe are both geniuses picked from thousands of miles away. They can communicate with nature. Senna listed the candidates for the great prophet and told the old man not to be too greedy. Especially don't grab the things in the dragon bowl. It took her 40 years to wait for Wayne. Try to grab one. They are not perfect. The great prophet didn't want to criticize the students, but it just didn't work. Virgil and Circe were able to communicate with nature because of his years of training and investment. Wayne is different. He can communicate with nature by relying on his own potential. He is already so strong without being taught. If he is taught, wouldn't it mean that he will go to heaven? With this kind of talent, he was born to be a great prophet. Senna, you and I both know that there is no holy son in the natural church, and everyone disagrees. No matter what you say, Wayne's final achievement is just an oracle high priest. The great prophet had a loud voice. On the contrary, he has become my student and will inherit the position of great prophet in the future, which will be of no harm to the church and the war of faith. What does it mean to be nothing more than an oracular high priest? Old guy, who are you mocking? Several oracle high priests were furious at the same time. They slammed the table and argued with the great prophet, asking him to speak clearly. Such words that were not conducive to unity must be taken back. The Pope said nothing, looking at the dragon-riding elves in the picture, and allowed the few people to quarrel. The Pope likes geniuses. From his position, the more geniuses the church has, the better. They are his assets. But if this asset threatens the saint candidate he supports, then that's a different story. The corner of the Pope's lips curled up and he said slowly, I think the great prophet is right. Wayne's talent is destined to be extraordinary. He will become the next great prophet. This is his destiny and the responsibility he bears. As expected of the Pope, this is called destiny, and it is not something that some people can object to if they want to. The great prophet clapped his hands. Senna is furious. She lost her ace in the last 20 years, but in this 20 years, she will not give up no matter what. Wayne should have a firm foothold in the natural knights rather than the great prophet. Guys, can I interrupt? In the corner of the long white table, a figure with a blurry face suddenly spoke. He had been silent before, and everyone was used to his low profile. Deputy Captain Gavin, what do you have to say? I went to Windsor some time ago. As an investigator reviewing the two candidates for the Windsor division, I was very optimistic about Wayne's talent and gave him a perfect score, Gavin said slowly. Everyone was confused. With Gavin's status and undisciplined personality, he personally went to Windsor. It was not as simple as assessing candidates. Thinking of this, they all looked at the Pope. The Pope didn't want to explain anything, so he took advantage of the situation and said, Deputy Captain Gavin, please continue. I think Wayne's talent is more than just the oracle of high priest, and he shouldn't just sit in the position of great prophet. This will only waste his talent. Gavin ignored everyone's anger and kept silent. I am optimistic that he will become the successor of the leader and the next chosen knight. What, XN? Everyone was shocked, and the Pope couldn't help but straighten his body, wanting to hear the source of Gavin's confidence. Candidate Wayne received a natural response with his cultivation as a silver mage. From this point of view, he is the perfect candidate for the great prophet, but Gavin changed the subject. He has been studying magic for less than a year. He has not fully realized his talent. He should not stop here. You people cannot decide his fate. Only goddesses are qualified. Gudu. Senna swallowed softly. She had already overestimated Wayne's talent, but she didn't expect Gavin to be more optimistic about Wayne than she was. He opened his mouth and called the God's chosen knight, pushing Wayne's talent and potential to the peak. If her student's student becomes a natural knight, who is qualified to compete with her to be the next pope? When she becomes the pope, who will dare to go against her? No. If you are bolder, the term of the current pope could end early. Gavin, you are too arbitrary. The pope said coldly, does Mr. Mulla know what you said? If it is just your personal wishful thinking, take it back now. Mulla is the current natural knight. His term of office is unknown. He is nominally the head of the natural knights. Apart from the honor of the knight, he refuses all rights. However, because of the name of the God's chosen knight, his identity is the greatest power. What an honor it is for the goddess to walk on earth as a knight. As long as Mulla opens his mouth, all members of the natural knights will die for him, and even all believers will follow his orders. In comparison, the Pope is only the highest level of administrative decision-making in the Church. He is the elected leader and cannot talk to the goddess himself. Mr. Mulla doesn't know. I once asked Wayne that he has no idea of becoming a knight. He has a cognitive defect in his talent. Maybe he is modest. He thinks his talent is too poor. Gavin told the truth. Road. The Pope breathed a sigh of relief. The situation had changed too quickly. The sudden appearance of a genius made him feel that he could not suppress Senna. Although the fault was not with Wayne, he did feel a bit disgusted with Wayne. Why are you so talented? Do you want to be the Pope? Go to hell, don't even think about it, Holy Son, you can only be a great prophet in this life. Changes occurred late, and the Pope decided to implement Wayne's whereabouts as soon as possible. In order to avoid Gavin's brain twitching, he really recommended Wayne to Mulla. Mulla was enthusiastic and handed the elemental mantra directly to Wayne. Can Wayne pass the test of the goddess and become the chosen knight on the spot? Although it's unlikely, there's no need to take the risk. The Pope glanced at Senna and directly contacted the great prophet. He gave Wayne a bad review in this game and tried every means to make him leave the game. The great seer understood instantly, noticed Senna's mental connection, and blocked her directly. Don't contact me again for fear that the Pope will misunderstand me. Senna probably understood something, snorted coldly, and left the scene early. I have to meet Wayne as soon as possible, lest the young man can't resist the temptation and really think that the position of the great prophet is a hot commodity. Seeing this, the great prophet followed and left the meeting room. The crystal ball was still playing the picture of the dragon rider elf, and the minds of the senior executives had already left, curious about how the fight between the two would end. Since there is nothing to do, let's disperse. After returning, think about the rating carefully. These candidates are all very good. The Pope left an ambiguous word and went to watch the excitement first. The Pope left, and the others were too lazy to pretend. They said a few polite words and went offline. The church has become like this after all. Gavin did not leave. He looked at the performance of other candidates on the crystal ball and gave impartial ratings. He knew that his rating was not important, but his persistence was important. If the leader is willing, the church will definitely not become like this. Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 244. Boom. The last white dragon fell. Wayne rode Veronica to complete a double kill, defeating the dragons transformed by Sphy and Megan. He raised his hand and touched his chin, which was cut. The women of the Landau family should not be so weak. It should be that Veronica's imagination was insufficient and she could not load more rendering materials, which led to the tragic defeat of the two white dragons. The dream dissipated, and Wayne was still in front of the Landau manor. Looking down, he saw Monica in the bushes again. What a big cat litter box. Wayne was speechless. This opening animation was too bad. Brother Wayne, how long are you going to ride? Veronica said expressionlessly. Ah. Wayne looked down and found himself sitting on Veronica's shoulders with his legs apart. He blinked and suddenly realized, I was wondering, why did I suddenly look so tall when I didn't transform? So this is what happened. After saying that, he jumped down before Veronica went berserk. After talking too much nonsense, Veronica still went berserk. She hugged Wayne's waist with a low body and threw him backwards with her waist strength. Clean and smooth, it can be called an artistic treasure in the wrestling world. Wayne fell headfirst into the ground, pulled out his head, saw the surrounding scenery faded, returned to the original black and white corridor, raised his hand and snapped his fingers, and took Veronica around in the maze. 3 minutes later, the two successfully reached the exit. Alex and Dussa are also in the maze, aren't you going to find them? Veronica kicked Wayne from behind. She learned it from Dussa, who often kicked her brother Alex like this. Veronica thought it was cute and quickly mastered the essence of it. No, they are our own people, there is no need to cause trouble for them, Wayne thought silently, at least they are our own people for now. It's a pity, if the neighbor was Odelia, he would have eliminated her in the first round and ended the selection ceremony early. Wayne and Veronica passed through the exit one after another, through the portal, and returned to the door of Villa number 4. The magician at the headquarters noted the time and cleaned up the teleportation array with a ping-pong sound. It looked like they would have to toss for a long time. Wayne wanted to join in the fun, but was urged by Veronica to enter the villa. As soon as the door was closed, he was pulled by the collar and pressed on the sofa. Veronica rode on Wayne skillfully, avenging the fact that Wayne had just ridden a dragon. Wayne held his sister's waist intimately to prevent her from slipping and falling. Bang! Veronica punched Wayne in the face, looking at him with lustful eyes. What's so good about this? This is a punishment, not a reward. Asshole, in my dream, you shot and killed Mr. Landau, and then my mother and Megan turned into dragons. The nightmare started because of you. You are the source of the disaster. How is it possible? That was your dream. I would never shoot Austin in reality, Wayne argued. Stop it, how can a pistol kill the Dark Knight? Even a blue fire Gatling gun can't do that. I don't care, it's all your fault. Okay, it's all my fault. Answer me a few questions first. This is very important. Wayne supported Veronica and raised his eyebrows and said, Megan can transform into a dragon. I can understand that, I have seen it with my own eyes. Can you and the teacher do it? I clearly told you that it was all an illusion. Why did you lose your mind? What stimulated you? What happened to Austin being shot by me? It is said that you dream about what you think about during the day. In your heart, the relationship between him and me has reached the point where one of you must die. Faced with these 3 questions, Veronica answered one by one, I feel that my mother and I can turn into dragons. I have a hunch that the dragon blood will be strengthened to the end and become a dragon. The stimulation is because my mother and Megan turned into dragons and could not suppress the blood pulse. They subconsciously followed the transformation. The mind could not keep up with the body, so they lost their minds. As for you and Mr. Landau, it is better to die together, rather than just one of you. What a filial daughter, she sacrificed her own father right away. You are so filial, does the teacher know? After Veronica finished speaking, she saw Wayne thinking silently, so she raised her fist and didn't interrupt until Wayne breathed a sigh of relief before punching him. What did you think of? Is it related to the dragon blood curse? Tell me quickly. After Austin was killed, the teacher and Megan lost their minds. This is your dream. It is subjective and one-sided and has no reference value. Just like the overall strength of the teacher and Megan declined in the dream, their words and deeds were given meaning by you. In addition, in your subconscious, Megan has a strange feeling for Austin. They are indeed lovers. Teacher and Austin, who is the real Dragon Knight? I'll put a question mark here first. Wayne touched his chin and continued, the scandals of the previous generation are already very messy, so I won't add fuel to the fire. If it were the two of us, you and the teacher and Megan would lose their minds and turn into dragons in the same way. Witnessing the tragic death of your sweetheart, your mind collapsed. Bang. Veronica dropped her fist expressionlessly, warning Wayne not to make random analysis, let alone be sentimental, because there was another reason for her to lose her mind. Bloodline heard the call of her mother and Megan, that's all. Too heartless, I'm dead, and you're not sad at all. Wayne took the opportunity to say, in that case, I'll go back and marry Chris, cheat on Willie in 2 years, divorce Chris and marry Willie, you'll be a bridesmaid twice, and you'll have 2 lovely godchildren, and everyone will have a bright future. Go to hell. Go to hell. Wayne was hit in the chest by Veronica halfway through his words. He insisted on finishing the whole paragraph and told Veronica that times have changed. Tsundere has retired. If you like someone, just say it boldly. If you keep saying one thing and doing another, you will only be a bridesmaid at the wedding. Veronica punched him a few more times and said gloomily, will the nightmare become a reality? No. Wayne was sure that the knight would not die from a pistol and Austin would not be killed by a single shot. Veronica's nightmare had logical loopholes and could not withstand scrutiny. In addition, Veronica's nightmare was not a dragon blood curse. His and Austin's deaths were just appearances. The deep meaning of the nightmare was the destruction of the family. Her nightmare was related to her childhood family environment. Thank you for your hard work. I promise that this family will not fall apart. Wayne sat up, held Veronica in his arms, patted her back gently, and thought about the true face of the dragon blood curse. There was no clue at hand, so it was useless to think about it. I simply gave up being a beggar and prepared to ask Senna later. Veronica was stunned. She didn't say anything foul-mouthed, but she was not used to the sudden seriousness. Her heartbeat accelerated involuntarily, and her hands were faster than her brain. When she came to her senses, she found that she had hugged Wayne. It smells so good. X2. Senna. What's going on? Didn't she come at the wrong time? After experiencing the horrible nightmare of losing a loved one, it is understandable to hug after surviving the disaster, but aren't the postures of the two of you a bit too much? In Senna's eyes, the brother and sister hugged each other. The brother was okay, but the sister spread her legs and entangled with her brother like an octopus, squinting her eyes and looking very happy. Could this little guy have improper thoughts about his own brother? Ahem. Senna clenched her fist and coughed lightly, interrupting the charming atmosphere in the air. Sigh, Teacher Senna. Veronica jumped up in a hurry, standing aside in a panic, wanting to explain clearly but not knowing where to start. Teacher Senna, why are you here? Wayne stood up, patted Veronica's head, and smiled dotingly. She was scared in her dream, and I am comforting her. Just dote on her. Senna shook her head. Are you usually so close at home? No, only occasionally. Veronica is afraid of thunder. When she was a child, Teacher Sci-fi was not at home. Every night with thunder and lightning, she would hold the pillow and crawl into my bed. Wayne recalled the past and couldn't help but smile. So the root of the trouble is here. Senna pondered for a moment, and finally said, as an elder, you are adults, you can't fight like you did when you were a child. Fortunately, it's me. It's hard to explain if others see it. Veronica. This bastard talks nonsense, and he is really good at deceiving women. Veronica fell into deep thought. Is there a possibility that she has been deceived all the time, but she didn't notice it because she was in the dark? Thank you for your teaching. I will keep my distance from Veronica in the future. Yes, she is already a big girl, Wayne sighed. He was very pleased as a brother to have a little sister growing up. As he said that, he rubbed Veronica's head again. Veronica lowered her head and didn't speak. She made up her mind to clean up the trash can after Senna left. Garbage sorting must be done today. By the way, Teacher Senna, what do you want to do with us? Wayne asked politely, trying to reverse his bad evaluation in Senna's heart through a good image. It's very difficult. Austin is too similar to him. But Wayne must do it. This is a gold mountain. If you coax her well, you will be rewarded. Not to mention the long distance, the truth of the dragon blood curse still depends on Senna to provide accurate information. There is a very important thing that is directly related to whether you can become the Son of God. X2. Can he become the Son of God? X2. Veronica almost laughed out loud, and Wayne didn't believe it either. Philomena warned that the son/daughter of God would be possessed by the mind of the goddess, and there was a possibility of looking through memories during the period. In religious records, the goddess of nature is pure and has never had a partner. Who isn't? The sun, moonlight, darkness, and death are all pure, and none of them have a partner. It's okay if there is no one, but there are no five. It sounds unreliable. Wayne is deeply skeptical of the description of the purity of the goddesses. Referring to the operation of idol stars, the purity of the goddess is religious propaganda, a complete leaks-cutting routine. Putting aside his personal dark arguments, the goddess of nature is pure and has never thought about passing. He became the Son of God, and the goddess looked through his memory, watching the Midnight Small Theater from a first-person VR perspective. It's still a TV series, and several female characters appear. The result is conceivable. The only Son of God of the Church of Nature caught a cold and died suddenly that night. Wayne can't do anything to be a saint, so he doesn't have the courage to do it. He said to Senna with a serious expression, "Teacher Senna, you misunderstood. My talent is too poor and I am not qualified to be a saint. I am Veronica's bodyguard on this trip. She is the top priority." As he said, he mentioned dragon blood again. In order to ensure Veronica's great victory, he begged Senna to help with dozens of kilograms of dragon blood. Dragon blood is very precious, and the unit of measurement has always been grams. In addition, there are no giant dragons in the gods' chosen continent. If you want dragon blood, you must get it from the kingdom of God. Senna didn't know what complaining was, and answered seriously. Where does the dragon blood of the kingdom of God come from? Slay the dragon. X2. Wayne and Veronica both thought of Dragon Heart Island, where the Knights of the Sun Goddess had participated in the dragon-slaying battle. 9 knights, including Valkyrie, entered the kingdom of the dragon. After a fierce battle, the dragon fell, and Valkyrie and Dragonheart fell to the gods' choice continent together. Although dragons are not gregarious creatures, every adult dragon has power comparable to the gods. Dragon blood is hard-earned. Senna explained to the two how precious dragon blood is. Teacher Senna, do you have to slay a dragon to get dragon blood? Can't you make a deal with a giant dragon? Wayne couldn't hold it back and interjected. Cannot. Senna rejected Wayne's naive idea. The dragon can sense its own bloodline anywhere, and naturally suppresses it so that the owner of the bloodline cannot resist the dragon's will. Furthermore, if the dragon does not die, the dragon's blood will always be dragon's blood and cannot resonate with the holder's bloodline to evolve. Not only does the transaction have no value, it also creates a hidden danger that makes it impossible to resist the roots of blood. X2. The two of them nodded repeatedly after hearing this. They were worthy of being advanced beings. A drop of blood has so much value. Wayne suddenly realized that dragon blood has intellectual property rights, and the dragon can recover it at any time, and there is no expiration of copyright. If he wants dragon blood, he can only kill the copyright holder. He asked, "Teacher Senna, do you know about the dragon's blood curse?" "Why are you asking?" Sci-fi sensed her dragon blood curse. Senna sneered, "Incompetent guy, this is the price she pays for betraying me." After the words fell, Veronica and Wayne both frowned, and it could be heard that Senna was really planning to die without saving her. "Of course, if she came to beg me and atone for her betrayal, I might let things go. Veronica, this old woman has such a troublesome personality." "Wayne, you are the same, you are both arrogant." It was obvious that Wayne had misunderstood. Senna was not being arrogant, but when she finished her words, she noticed that his face was worried, so she did not finish her words and left some room. Senna probably understood something. In the Landau family, the head of the family, Austin, had a dark heart and sold his conscience in order to make more money, so he was not favored by his children. On the other hand, Ziffy has a carefree personality and takes the initiative to accept the legacy of her predecessor, Wayne, as her own child and accept him as a student. Wayne has a great affection for his stepmother He. In Veronica's eyes, Wayne can kill Alston with one shot, without any hesitation, and he can't even raise his gun to aim when facing He. Senna narrowed her eyes slightly. It was good, it is a good thing that people have weaknesses. Having grasped this weakness, Senna did not take the opportunity to attack. This was a trump card that could be saved for later use. Now was not the time. She could use her status as an elder to get close to Wayne. Threats will not win the hearts of the people, and oppression will only lead to resistance. Only warmth and sincerity can win loyalty. Sincerity or something, Senna thought that she probably didn't have it, but she could act and pretend that she really liked Wayne regardless of her deeds. No need to pretend, she really liked it, and Zife had a big surprise for her. "This gift is perfect." Wayne frowned. He saw the word cannibalism in Senna's eyes. The last time he saw this look, Senna was looking at Veronica. "What the hell, are you really planning to make him a saint?" Wayne was full of doubts and didn't understand what he had done. Suddenly, Senna's favor increased greatly, and he even had the wonderful idea that he could become the son of God. Good thing, it erased the negative comments brought about by Austin. "Veronica, you are exhausted. Go to the bathroom and take a shower. Teacher Senna and I have something to say." "Why should I take a bath when everything is fine?" Veronica didn't say anything, and turned around to go to the second floor of the villa. Knowing that Wayne's mind was spinning fast, he sent her away. She must have something to talk to Senna privately. Senna glanced at Wayne approvingly, without delving into who Wayne inherited his shrewd mind from. It was just fine. If he thought too much, he would be disgusted. She waved her hand and set up a soundproof barrier. "Wayne, transform into an elf, let me see how you merge with nature." Wayne nodded, and with a thought, he turned around and transformed into a perfect elf 2 meters tall. The formula and magic stone provided by Philomena perfectly explain the story of a poor and honest person who wants to live a passable life, but must take the shortcut of a rich woman and aunt. So beautiful. Senna narrowed her eyes slightly to hide her surprise. The elf transformed by Wayne was perfect. After looking at it carefully for a moment, she said, "The belief in nature alone cannot be so perfect. Have you also studied the belief in moonlight and sun?" "Well, studying makes me happy." Wayne deeply believed that whether it was Chrissy, Philomena, Mona, or Valkyrie, they were all good teachers who taught by words and deeds. It's a good thing to be eager to learn, but don't be too curious. Learning everything will only harm you, Senna warned, letting Wayne merge with nature. She couldn't wait. Wayne immediately spread his mind, connected with the surrounding nature, and used himself as a lever to integrate the surrounding space. Communicate with nature and rely on the power of nature. You cannot apply formulas. You can cast powerful magic comparable to divine magic by just turning your mind. It is not magic in nature, it is the result of Wayne's thinking reshaping nature, and it is projected into the real world in the form of magic. Senna was extremely accomplished in magic and could easily sense the changes in her breath. She was surprised and delighted and said, "Wayne, when did you achieve this step, and who inspired you?" "I read in a magic magazine that a magician is a balanced individual, and nature is a balanced whole. We are in nature and are also in balance, so we should be able to communicate with nature." Wayne talked about the source of inspiration. To be honest, it was someone else's concept. Senna's mouth twitched. "Don't read these messy magazines in the future, they are all lies." "No way, I obviously succeeded." "Yes, you succeeded, but everyone else died." Wayne's answer was unexpected, and once again proved his talent. He succeeded with a concept that seemed unreliable at first glance. Senna was very satisfied and asked, "How long did it take you to master this skill? Who did you learn from?" "Just in the past 2 days, I learned from you." "Me?" "Yes." Wayne showed the mind ring as a matter of course. "Originally, I only had ideas, and I could never communicate with nature. I practiced for half a year but had no results until I got this ring that communicates with nature." Senna looked strange. The ring did not have this effect at all. It was clearly something that Wayne had imagined. However, Wayne's eyes were full of admiration, which just happened to establish her image as an unfathomable teacher, so I didn't explain it. "Teacher Senna, to be honest, this ring is so useful. I tried to take it off these 2 days because I remembered the mysterious feeling. I can communicate with nature without the ring now." Wayne spoke quickly about his practice. "My next goal is to communicate with nature without turning into an elf, integrate into it and become a part of the balance. The next goal is to expand the natural field and strive to establish a connection with the whole world. This is very difficult, but I believe that those who have the will can achieve their goals. As long as I work harder than everyone else, I will succeed." "Okay, stop talking. If you keep talking, I will call you teacher." Senna interrupted and said in a dilemma, "Wayne, as a legendary wizard, I can tell you clearly that this idea is not realistic. Don't waste time. Yes, after all, my talent is very ordinary. I found the way to success after getting the ring." Senna suspected that Wayne was acting. After all, he had the blood of Austin and followed the bloodline. The ability to lie was innate. She skipped the unpleasant topic and warned, "Wayne, you performed too well today. A disgusting guy has set his sights on you." "Who?" "Tubi." "Who is Tubi?" "The great prophet Tubi. Your ability to communicate with nature is favored by him, and he wants to take you to the prophet's hall to do hard labor for a lifetime." "Teacher Senna, is the ability to communicate with nature very rare?" Wayne raised his eyebrows. "It shouldn't be, just practice casually, isn't it the same for everyone?" "Wayne, don't play dumb in front of me, I'm not Sci-fi, this trick doesn't work on me." "Oh." Wayne secretly thought it was a mistake. "It shouldn't be, they are all dragon blood, why do you have a brain? The great prophet has the ability to communicate with nature. This ability allows every great prophet to receive the oracle of the kingdom of God. It is not the goddess of nature, but the listener of one of the 3 agents. Myra L. the Lark. She can foresee the future." Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 245. The great prophet serves the agent. Although the agent's divine power is powerful, he cannot directly deliver the oracle. Therefore, the great prophet must have the ability to communicate with nature in order to sense the agent who is far away in the kingdom of God. Senna talked about the significance of the existence of the great prophet in the church. The great prophet is a servant of God. Miriel, the lark, one of the 3 agents, has the power to predict the future. The great prophet's status is very important. And because great prophets are only servants of God, their status can be high or low. When necessary, the omniscient prophet can guide the future of the church, When not necessary, the great prophet is just a nagging old man. Kongshen is also a god, and is also worshipped by believers. Senna does not want to speak too bluntly, which will damage the majesty of Kongshen. She just wants Wayne to know what he is saying. For low-level believers, being able to become a great prophet and contact God is tantamount to reaching heaven in one step. For senior officials, respecting the gods is because they believe in the goddess. The goddess comes first and then the gods. This is a matter of principle and must not be taken lightly. With Wayne's talent, there is no need to waste time on God, he deserves a higher and better position. For example, God's chosen knight. Wayne analyzed in his mind that it was actually quite good to be a god. He was a lark and could predict the future. This ability was very impressive. If he mastered this ability, he would become a great prophet who could deliver oracles about the future in the eyes of outsiders. Wouldn't he be able to make up oracles as he pleased? That person is you. Don't look at it. I have an oracle related to you. Come to my room tonight and chat slowly. There are not many people who can communicate with nature. It took the great prophet to be nearly 100 years to train 2 students. They are different from you. Their talents are based on resources and they are not perfect. Because of this, Tube can only stick to his position as a great prophet and cannot leave the human world to go to the kingdom of God. His ability has become a shackle that prevents him from going further. He desires an outstanding student more than anyone else. If you become a great prophet, Tube will be your future. You will be unable to leave office throughout your life. You will sit in the prophet's hall every day and eventually become crazy. The great prophet was not as bad as Senna said, but in order to dispel Wayne's illusions, she highlighted the shortcomings of the great prophet and belittled him to the bone. Immediately afterwards, Senna changed the topic. I don't know how Sci-fi trained you. Maybe she was worried that you would be arrogant because of your talent, so she repeatedly suppressed your confidence. I can tell you very clearly, Wayne, you are a genius. You can be the knight of the goddess, and this is the honor worthy of you. Sina Barabarid told the story of the greatness of the god's chosen knight. She did not brag deliberately, every word was true. She also highly praised the god's chosen knight. If it weren't for her lack of talent, she would have wanted to become a natural knight. Who wants to be the Pope if he can be a natural knight? This question is really not difficult to choose. Wayne, I didn't intentionally exaggerate the facts. Your talent is very good. Don't be tempted by 2B. He has evil intentions and just wants to use you. No matter what he says, don't agree to him easily. Senna spoke earnestly and then mentioned the Pope, telling Wayne about a period of her tenure in the church that had been suppressed. To put it simply, the Pope is greedy for power and suppresses dissidents. Because of her outstanding performance, Senna was regarded as a thorn in the Pope's side and was often treated unfairly. Because Wayne and Senna have a teacher-teacher relationship, they are also regarded as enemies by the Pope. Now the Pope and the great prophet have reached an agreement to push Wayne to live in a small dark room in the prophet's hall. The kind of life sentence. Wayne thought about it, the plot was too mudslide, and he couldn't find a good person in the story. No, apart from him, I didn't find a good person. When did the church become like this? The church is like this, and the Black Death alliance of darkness and death has not yet won. What does this mean? Is it the excellent matching mechanism of God's choice continent? Wayne was full of complaints. After listening to Senna's story, he had no interest in the position under the great prophet's butt. Without him, the great prophet has no holidays, is on duty 365 days a year, and cannot leave the church headquarters. This is boring. It is true that the great prophet is only a life sentence, not a prison sentence without a wife. As long as he does not leave the prophet's hall, he can do whatever he wants, and the Pope has no control over it. Wayne has become a great prophet and can definitely bring Veronica into it. But what to do with pagans like Philomena, Chris, Willie, and Mona? These are his empire, the foundation he has worked so hard to build. Wayne, talk. The world is so big, I want to see it. What? The ability to predict the future is certainly tempting, but the great prophet has too many restrictions, which is not suitable for my heart that longs for freedom, Wayne said concisely. He wanted to go back to Lundam for a soak, as the scenery there is better. Senna was overjoyed, encouraged Wayne a few words, and then said, the God's chosen knight does not have such restrictions. Mr. Mullah, the natural knight, rarely stays at the headquarters. He can go wherever he wants. No one can command him except the goddess. Senna and Gavin said similar things. Instead of a great prophet, a real man should be a knight. Teacher Senna, can I really be a natural knight? Of course, Deputy Captain Gavin of the Natural Knights is very optimistic about you. It's hard to say. Wayne expressed deep doubts, not his own talent. 2 practices proved that if he wanted to be the God's chosen, he didn't need the goddess nod at all, just a touch. What he questioned was the outcome. Wayne didn't know anything when he pulled out the Shadow Nightmare. Later, he found out that the chosen knight was very troublesome and the goddess was always paying attention to his knight. Because the Dullahan was in the front, he never had a direct conversation with the goddess of death. The same was true for Twilight Despair, where Aston was in the front. The 2 unlucky guys were in the front and suffered, while Wayne followed behind to get the advantage, without any responsibility. What if the natural knight really completed the handover ceremony and talked directly with the goddess of nature? The goddess would happily stick her head out and find that her knight had practiced skills in death and darkness. What, this is not your first time? As you can imagine, the goddess's face turned black. The above are all Wayne's speculations, beautiful speculations. He also has a worse speculation that the goddesses of death and darkness have paid attention to him. Because they are allies, and the Dullahan is stupid and Aston is undisciplined, he is tacitly regarded as a knight trumpet, that is, a spare tire. As allies, they are sisters behind closed doors, and sharing a spare tire is harmless. The goddess of nature is not a sister, but a bitch from the enemy camp. The spare tire that he has trained so hard has been robbed. If a war of faith is triggered, wouldn't Wayne be guilty of a big sin? Wayne is happy to see the goddesses fighting, scratching faces, pulling hair, and tearing clothes. The more similar scenes, the better, but he knows in his heart that if a war of faith really breaks out, only ordinary believers will die. In addition, when all ordinary believers die and the disciples are seriously injured, it will be the turn of the chosen knight to come out and finish. He will play 3 roles by himself. He can't split up and fight himself, right? When that day comes, the angry goddesses will only tear him apart before they start to tear each other apart. The vest of the knight of nature is not worth it. Wayne rejected the temptation from the bottom of his heart. The vest of Black Death is enough. The Death Knight raised his upper limit, allowing him to show off his power to the legendary wizard in the novice period. The Dark Knight is the icing on the cake, which is very effective in disgusting Laodeng. The Knight of Nature is unnecessary. It doesn't matter whether he has it or not. Wayne, say something. Teacher Senna, this matter needs to be considered carefully. I know myself too well. I am used to being free and undisciplined. The goddess will definitely not like me. Why do you say that if you don't try? Try and you will die. Do you know that the knight standing in front of you is the double knight of death and darkness? Wayne has little interest in the knight of nature. His perfunctory attitude makes Senna very distressed. She once suspected that Wayne lacked desire and was a hopeless mud like Sci-fi. The child is still young and it is normal to have no desire. It will be fine when he grows up. Senna took a deep breath and comforted herself in this way. She told Wayne to be careful of the great prophet and talk about the knight of nature in a few days. If Wayne still has this indifferent attitude, she can only increase the intensity and use Sci-fi's dragon blood curse as a temptation. She doesn't believe Wayne will not be fooled. For the position of the next pope, Senna will give everything to make Wayne a knight of nature. Teacher, take care. See you later. Wayne waved goodbye to the air and turned to the second floor to try to have a mixed bath with his brother and sister. Bang! The human-shaped cannonball took off from the spot and landed in the grove outside the villa. What a fool! Why is he so excited? If someone sees him, they will definitely misunderstand the relationship between the brother and sister. Wayne patted the dust off his body and blamed Veronica for not having a big picture. It was just a mixed bath. It was not like they had mixed baths before. Be careful, no one will die. She sees hizzy. A frightened monkey fell to the ground, jumping and trying to drive away the intruder. Wayne was afraid of being thrown shit, so he hurriedly left its territory. Turning around, he found something wrong. It's not a monkey, it's a mandrill. There are mandrills in Osteria, isn't it? Wayne thought more and more strangely. He looked carefully at the colorful monkey in front of him and was surprised to find that this monkey had a natural domain similar to his. Perfectly blending into the surrounding nature, like an inconspicuous plant, this mandrill cannot be found without the naked eye. It is worthy of being the headquarters of the Church of Nature. Even the monkey's talent is so terrible. Wayne complained, indicating that he was hit. He adjusted his face and tried to ask, "Great Prophet. The password is correct." The mandrill stood upright like a monkey in a crown, with the light of wisdom flashing in his eyes. His temperament changed drastically, and his wild nature faded away like a knowledgeable wise man. "Candidate Wayne, nice to meet you. I am the great prophet of the Church of Nature. You can call me Tubby." The mandrill spoke human words. "Tuesday, great prophet Tubby, it's an honor to meet you at my doorstep." Wayne regarded the mandrill as a magical life, or perhaps an alternative carrier bird. Others raise pigeons and owls, but the great prophet raises monkeys and casts magic to host his thoughts in them. I wasted a lot of time on the way here. You should have met with High Priest Senna. The mandrill was helpless. Your teacher is a student of High Priest Senna. Compared with me, you are more likely to trust her. This is my weakness. I hope you will remember the following words and think carefully about who is the one who really wants you. Needless to say, neither of you is a good person. Great Prophet Tubby, I am honored to receive your teachings. Please speak, Wayne said politely. The mandrill seemed to be in a hurry. He spoke quickly about the functions of the great prophet and his importance to the church. He only said the good things and tried to arouse Wayne's desire. Then, using examples and the ability to communicate naturally, he pointed out that he and Wayne had common talents and that Wayne still had potential to tap. Senna cannot guide all of Wayne's talents. He is different. Through his teachings, Wayne can not only realize his potential perfectly, but also communicate with God and learn the magic of predicting the future. Finally, Mandrill said, some time ago, I provided information about the Nightmare Corridor to the two candidates in the Frank division, allowing you to successfully pass the test. It was no coincidence. I was prepared to hand over the information to you from the beginning. Wayne was slightly startled, wanting to hear what Tutu was talking about. I have an old friend in Windsor. He contacted me some time ago and asked me to help you become the Holy Son. His name is Plank. That old psychotic friend is actually you. Wayne was surprised. Plank's path was so wild. Could he be an undercover agent of the Church of Nature? Thinking again, all the 25 men in the Windsor Ministry of Magic swear to be loyal to the Queen, but in fact they all have their own agenda. Gangplank may not be an undercover agent of the Church of Nature, but the Church of Nature is definitely one of his escape routes. Dean Plank is overthinking it. It is impossible for me to become the Holy Son. The Church does not have this tradition. It has nothing to do with talent, it's a matter of gender. You don't have to be too pessimistic. It's not your fault. Mandrill comforted him and praised him without hesitation. Wayne, your talent is perfect for a great prophet. If it were you, you would definitely be able to see the future and become a true prophet. Seeing Wayne's expressionless expression, Mandrill continued, I don't want to speak ill of High Priest Senna, but she is indeed a cold-blooded person. Don't be used by her, let alone be kidnapped by the relationship between master and apprentice. Think about your teacher. I didn't lie. Wayne remained expressionless. The Mandrill pondered for a moment and then said wisely, the inheritance of the great prophet is inseparable from nature. You cannot master the essence through self-study. Now you can only communicate with a part of nature, and it is limited to plants, not the entire nature. Can the great prophet Tube do it? Wayne became interested and talked for a long time before finally getting to the point. I can't do it, my talent is limited. You can, but you can't do it because no one teaches you. The Mandrill glanced at Wayne meaningfully. Are you very confused? Obviously it is an elf that is perfectly integrated with nature, but there is always something missing. What is it? Wayne's eyes lit up. This question had been bothering him for a long time. The Mandrill showed an anthropomorphic smile. Wayne, I can't tell you the answer. It involves the inheritance of the great prophet. This is forbidden knowledge. If you want answers, come to the palace of the prophets, where I put everything. Under Wayne's speechless gaze, Mandrill brought up several more tempting topics, scratching his boots every time but refusing to give him any pleasure. Don't ask, it's because it involves inheritance and you can't tell. If you want to learn, come to the prophet's hall and I will teach you. After being seduced by the Mandrill for 5 minutes, it dispersed, merged with nature, and turned into an ordinary monkey. Before Tubi's thoughts dissipated, he left Wayne with a message. Think carefully, what can Senna give you, what kind of person is she, what can I give you, and what do you long for? Please don't leave. I hope that when we meet next time, Wayne will no longer be expressionless. These people are really troublesome. Wayne's sense of the higher UPS of the church headquarters has plummeted. It was not high before, but now it has dropped directly to negative points. He can't wait to transform into a natural knight and beat them all. The dream of a teacher becoming a pope was also shattered. Sci-fi comes to the headquarters and will transform into Senna sooner or later. When that day comes, the Landau family will definitely break up. Wayne gave up his obsession with telling the luminous script to Saint, but the cost was too great. He would rather tell Veronica the script, and if possible, Chrissy and Willie would listen and interact with the script. If one day he could have a threesome, what kind of saint would he want? Nature Church Headquarters. The unknown space is hidden in the gap between the God's choice continent and the void. Multiple portals are shrouded in clouds and mist. The human world cannot see its shape, its name, or its location. The mountains in this space are undulating, like a beautiful scroll unfolding, like a dream, so beautiful that it makes people forget to leave. It is also like a barrier, blocking the contact between the void universe and the God's choice continent. The ancient trees in the mountain forest are towering and lush, and the vitality of nature can be seen everywhere. The golden dream is not limited to greenery, the rolling sea of clouds and the passing breeze are all included in the artistic conception of nature. Nature is a concept, ranging from plants and trees to everything in the world, including the sun, moon, and stars. Be braver, it is like this day and night, and so is death. From the top of the 10-step mountain, you can see from a bird's eye view a magnificent group of buildings, some far away and some near, arranged row after row, with large and small churches well proportioned, forming a city. There is a city, and there is a distinction between the city center and the suburbs. On a lonely hilltop in the suburbs, a group of white palace buildings stands alone. It can be said that he has nothing to do with the world, or he can be said that he is not accepted. The Prophet's Hall. In the green garden behind the main hall, a huge tree canopy spreads out in an umbrella shape, and among the variegated shadows of the trees, larks jump and sing. Two young men in white robes sprinkled birdseed under the tree. Their calm aura blended with the surrounding nature. They were regarded as companions by the larks, who competed to play on them. The two young men have elegant temperaments, their handsome facial features tend to be soft, and their eyebrows are not sharp. At first glance, they look like honest people who are easy to talk to. Virgil. Surrey. Two students of the great prophet. Flutter, flutter. A lark came down with an envelope in its mouth, landing in front of the two people, cheering and jumping, as if to ask for credit. Virgil took the envelope calmly and fed bird food as a reward. After opening it, his face gradually became ugly. Virgil, what prophecy did you see again? Surrey walked forward happily, browsed the contents of the letter, and his face suddenly changed. He blurted out, "Who is this guy named Wayne? Where did he jump out of? Did the teacher really go to find him? There is no impenetrable wall in the world. Even if there is, it will be drilled into the wall by someone with ulterior motives." The content of the letter was no less than a bolt from the blue, directly negating Virgil and Surrey's years of hard work. The two people fell into a trough of mood. In their confusion, they could not maintain their own balance, and scared away the surrounding larks, and the chirping questioning sounded one after another. "Virgil, let's go find the teacher." "No, this letter came out of nowhere, deliberately confusing our thinking." Virgil suppressed his depression and said lightly, "Besides, if the teacher makes a choice, we have no right to object, everything is fate." His fate, how many prophecies are true, don't you know? Fate is fought for, not destined. Sexy snorted coldly, shook his white robe, and walked quickly to the direction of the hall. He wanted to ask the teacher the truth. He couldn't sit there for hundreds of years without anything. Virgil sighed, ignited a flame in his palm and burned the letter. He didn't stop Sexy, wanting to hear what the teacher thought. In addition, who is it, who is disturbing the tranquility of the prophet's hall? The high priest of the oracle? Or the Pope? Virgil smiled bitterly. This letter came at too timely, and his heart was in turmoil. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 246. Xerxes' inquiry was unsuccessful, and she was punished by the teacher for her fierce words and was given a grounding order. During the saint selection period, she was prohibited from leaving the prophet's hall. Virgil was also given a grounding order because he failed to stop it in time and was suspected of taking advantage of Xerxes. There are many people who want the position of great prophet that Wayne despises, especially Virgil and Circe. This is their lifelong goal. It is not embarrassing to lose to one's own brother, but to lose to an outsider. One can imagine the bad mood of the two of them. When the time came on March 15, Prussia tore up another agreement. It had just signed it in September last year, and it was still quite warm. The weak side in the agreement, the small country, was betrayed by Windsor and Frank. Facing the powerful Prussia, it raised its hands and started the light-speed surrender mode. To be precise, 0 seconds cannot be said to be a surrender. It should be a welcome with raised hands and lined up. On Wayne's side, Veronica rides under him and enjoys punishment every day. Wayne has rich experience in how to irritate Veronica. Today he started with afternoon tea snacks and praised Veronica for her excellent cooking skills. When the corner of Veronica's lips curled up, he changed the subject and boasted that Willie is the god of cooking. Have fun riding. Wayne enjoyed it, and he suspected that Veronica did too, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. He used this trick many times, and Veronica fell for it every time. It's really hard to tell who lied to whom. Considering that Veronica is an arrogant person, if she wants her to take the initiative, she must give her a reason. Wayne has reason to believe that he has been cheated. The brother felt sorry for his sister and did not reveal her little thoughts. He even held her legs to help stabilize her center of gravity. Senna. Here we go again, right? Sena looked at the brother and sister speechlessly, seriously suspecting that the relationship between the two was abnormal. The younger sister was controlling her older brother, but the older brother was actually. Ahem. Senna clenched her fist and coughed slightly, interrupting the intimate interaction between the two siblings. She confirmed that Deputy Captain Gavin intended to raise Wayne's priority over Veronica. The temptation of the natural night was too great, and the saint immediately lost her taste. But we still have to grab it when we should, and we can't let go of it with both hands. After all, Gavin is just wishful thinking. The key to whether Wayne can become a natural knight lies in Mura and the goddess. The former is willing to hand over the knight inheritance of the elemental mantra, and the latter recognizes Wayne's talent, so that the natural knight can be handed over smoothly. Otherwise, everything is empty talk. In this case, it is very important for the brother and sister to keep their distance. They must not escalate the fight, break out into physical conflicts, and eventually lead to loss of life. Veronica jumped off her mount, blushed and apologized, and ran to the second floor skillfully. Wayne was cheeky and didn't show any signs of panic. He straightened his clothes and said apologetically, "Sorry, Teacher Senna, I'm really too busy. I teased Veronica when I saw nothing to do. You guys shouldn't be like this at home, right? Does Sci-fi care about you? What a terrible mother, with such a big heart." Senna stood in the position of an elder and warned Wayne that the relationship between the brother and sister was not right and was already showing signs of deterioration. If he did not restrain himself, Wayne's love for his sister would sooner or later harden. Wayne nodded in agreement and humbly accepted the suggestion. It was impossible to change it. He would dare to do it next time. "Teacher Senna, you asked me to think about the future 2 days ago. I thought about it and decided that it would be better to keep my feet on the ground. My dream is not to be a natural knight. That is too high." Wayne declined politely and conveniently put the blame on Tuesday. The country bumpkin prophet. "To tell you the truth, after you left that day, I saw a mandrill in the mountain forest. It blended perfectly into nature and called itself a great prophet. While praising my talent, it also extended an olive branch to me and wanted to accept me as his students." Every time Wayne said a word, Senna's face became uglier. When he saw that it was almost done, he added fuel to the fire. "I am very envious of the artistic conception of the fusion of the great prophet and nature. I am eager for his knowledge. I am very desire, that's the way I should go." Senna had a sullen face, and saw Sci-fi's rebelliousness on a face that looked exactly like Austin. "Look at the good son you two raised, he has learned all your shortcomings." Senna's hand hidden in her sleeve clenched slightly and said coldly, "Tubi came to see you, what else did you say besides these?" "Well." Wayne smiled coquettishly, "Actually, it's nothing. He praised your noble character. There are some things I don't feel comfortable saying. Just understand." "Wayne, do you believe those words?" "Teacher Sena, you are my teacher's teacher, I don't want to lie to you." Wayne paused and said bluntly, "Reason tells me that the great prophet Tube is slandering you and wants to use this method to keep me away from you. He also threw out a lot of price tags as a temptation to make me willing to become his student. What about leaving reason aside? Just look at the reality. After my teacher Sci-fi gave up the election of the saint, you did not contact her again. Her life was not going well, and it was not until last year that she got better," Wayne said with a slight smile. "You respect he very much." "Yes, I have always regarded my teacher as my mother. She is much more important than Austin." Senna's eyes twitched. It's a good thing to have filial piety, but it would be terrible if she didn't enjoy this filial piety. After delving into the reason, Senna knew it well. If she was given another chance, she would definitely not leave Sci-fi alone and just move over and raise Wayne as her own son. Unfortunately, it's too late to say this now. Senna tried to establish a family relationship with Wayne, but failed. 20 years of inaction made Wayne particularly repulsive to her. Knowing this, he knew that nothing would change if he continued to waste time. Since it was useless to talk about feelings, let's do something practical. Senna's face changed and gradually became indifferent. Before, you asked me about the dragon blood curse because you were worried about Sci-fi, right? Wayne nodded. Not only the teacher, but also Veronica's hidden dangers must be eliminated. Maybe Megan, if she also has the trouble of the curse, she should be taken along. After all, she is Austin's lover and stepmother. The family should be complete, and it would be bad if anyone is missing. I will contact Deputy Captain Gavin and ask him to find Mr. Mura. What you need to do is to show your talent and prove that you can be a natural knight. Senna said, as long as you succeed, I will tell you how to remove the curse and help Sci-fi solve her troubles. I know her very well. She has not been promoted to a legendary wizard for so many years. It must be because of the curse. Wayne frowned. Things suddenly became tricky. He really didn't dare to touch the weapon of the natural knight. If something went wrong, the dragon blood curse could not be solved, and he would suffer. Teacher Senna, can we both take a step back? I reject the great prophet, and you tell me how to remove the curse, or what is the specific form of the curse. Senna didn't say anything, obviously it was not possible. Then put it another way, you tell me how to curse, I will immediately reject the great prophet and completely break his wishful thinking. Senna laughed out loud. The young man played the word game well. Once the cause and effect were reversed, she immediately became the one who took advantage. Don't say it, she was a little moved. Wayne, put away your tricks. I'm not SPHY. Just because Aston can deceive SPHY doesn't mean you can deceive me. Wayne's mouth twitched. SPHY is married to Aston. Wayne pondered for a long time and frowned. I can promise you, but before that, I'm very interested in the inheritance of the great prophet. I won't refuse him. If he gets angry, you will have to bear the consequences. If you become the chosen knight, he won't get angry. Teacher Senna, you also said if. There are all kinds of possibilities. You have to give me a way out, right? Wayne argued with reason. Everyone took a step back. There was no result if the stalemate continued. Senna was speechless for a long while. After a moment, she seemed to have made a decision and her brows relaxed. Okay, but there is one thing I want to ask clearly. Please go ahead. Can you maintain the state of integration with nature under normal circumstances? Yes, but it's not as powerful as the elf transformation. Once I get used to this feeling, I should be able to do it. How long will it take? If nothing goes wrong, half a month. So short. Senna is more confident that Wayne will become the chosen knight of God. She has never seen such a smart child. Gavin is right. It's a pity that Wayne doesn't become a knight. Teacher Senna, why are you asking this? Is it important? Very important. Senna directly transmitted her thoughts and gently knocked on the door of Wayne's closed heart. Seeing that the door was pushed open a crack, she couldn't help but laugh. Wayne, you really don't trust me at all. Teacher Senna, it's always better to be cautious. Wayne smiled slightly. It's better to be safe than sorry. Well said, it's always better to be cautious. Senna showed appreciation. She also thought so. For disobedient children, they must be put in chains. After half a month, withdraw from the saint selection. Before Deputy Captain Gavin contacts Mr. Mura, I have an important thing to give you. Senna narrowed her eyes. Teacher Senna, can you give me some tips? Dragon blood. You are very much like 11 Fae in the past. You have excellent talent, but your blood is very ordinary. In order to ensure that you can get the favor of the goddess, I will help you have dragon blood. Teacher Senna, you don't want to control the natural night. Wayne looked strange. This inexplicable self-confidence, no, this overwhelming arrogance, he finally saw the manifestation of dragon blood in Senna. The girl is not very smart. 11 Fae did not tell the original body blood. Wayne expressed understanding. It was not the first time to pit the teacher. But Senna did not do any intelligence work. Oh, I saw the elf form, and I misunderstood it first. Wayne touched his chin. It was a wonderful misunderstanding. It was interesting. He suddenly looked forward to it. You think too much. I never thought of threatening you with the dragon blood curse. The natural knight is stronger than you think. I did this to increase your chances of becoming the chosen knight. Senna shook her head gently. When you get the power of God, you will know that I didn't lie to you. Okay, whatever you say. Knowing that Senna's bet was dragon blood, Wayne was no longer panicked. He was cheating and it was impossible for him to be contaminated by dragon blood. Senna was destined to get nothing. Teacher Senna, now that it has come to this, I won't hide some things from you. I can withdraw from the selection of the saint, but there is one person I must defeat, otherwise I will not withdraw. Who? Odelia Ferdinand. Her teacher Flora Evelina was the previous saint. The reason? Flora offended my teacher. Anyone can become a saint, but her students cannot become saints, Wayne said firmly. He had not been optimistic about Austin's plan before, but now that he had seen more of the church's high-level officials, he admitted that Austin's words made sense. The church was a stinking ditch, and SPHY should be allowed to escape in time. The two knights had high hopes for Flora, hoping that she could wake SPHY up, but first, Flora had to be left with no way out and lose the saint selection. Senna looked at Wayne steadily, calling him SPHY when she opened her mouth and teacher when she closed her mouth. She was extremely envious for a moment. It would be great if she had such an obedient child. Teacher Senna, I have studied the maps you provided me before. If I am not mistaken, the top management can arrange competitors, just like the neighbor of Villa number 4 is Villa number 8. Everything is arranged by the top management. Wayne said, arrange Odelia and I to enter the same map. Defeat her, and I will take the initiative to withdraw from the selection of the saint. It is very difficult. Flora became a saint because the Pope manipulated her behind the scenes. She was abandoned by the Pope because of her ambition. Some time ago, she persuaded the Pope to let her student become one of the candidates supported by the Pope. In order to make room, the Pope gave up an excellent candidate who had been trained for 15 years. Senna said, Flora's student is not simple, and she definitely has outstanding qualities. She may not be your opponent, but she will not be easily eliminated. The Pope will not allow it. It doesn't matter. The Pope has other candidates without Odelia, right? Wayne said that the level was too high and he couldn't control it. This was Senna's concern. If Senna wanted to get him, she had to do it according to his requirements. Senna took a deep breath. The more she looked at Wayne, the more upset she felt. She cursed Austin in her heart. Not only did he steal her student, but he also gave birth to such a thing. This thing has a really good talent. It smells really good. Senna said that it could be operated, but it would take time. After the conversation, the relationship between the two changed from a master-disciple relationship to a cooperative partner. No feelings, only talking about interests, more suitable for the physique of adults. Wayne, when you become the chosen knight of God, remember to support me as the Pope. No matter what, I am Sci-fi's teacher. Of course, The premise is that you can remove the curse on teacher Sci-fi. Wayne stretched out his hand and smiled. I hope you will always be my teacher, Senna. I hope so too. The two shook hands, and Senna disappeared in the villa. Wayne closed his eyes and sensed it, but he could not detect the fluctuation of space. Senna came and left as she wanted, and her realm was more terrifying than he expected. Veronica walked down the stairs and stopped to look. She heard it all. Wayne smiled slightly, waved to Veronica, and sat side by side on the sofa. Wayne embraced his sister. What's wrong? You are so depressed. Remember not to eavesdrop next time. This habit is not good. I didn't eavesdrop. She didn't set up a soundproof barrier. Veronica looked at Wayne worriedly, leaned on his shoulder, and whispered, Mother said she was very bad. Is it really good to cooperate with her? Otherwise, what other options are there? Because of the dragon blood curse, you are worried about your mother and cooperate with her, right? And the lovely sister Veronica. Wayne gave a sweet talk at the right time. Veronica's heartbeat did not speed up, and she did not blush and shy. She enjoyed this love frankly, covered Wayne's eyes, and kissed him at the corner of his mouth. Dragonfly touches the water. There is a fish under the water, biting the dragonfly and not letting go. Veronica hesitated for a few times, and it took a lot of effort to push the social trash away. She lowered her head and pursed her lips. Wayne, will you become a natural knight? It's hard to say. In fact, I want to be a dragon knight more. Wayne showed his dagger. The map was engraved on the dagger. Be serious. Very serious. I haven't said you will become a knight of the natural knight. Bang. Veronica punched the social trash in the face, and then kissed him again. Be careful, don't be fooled by that woman. I understand, just leave it to me to deal with it. Austin can't be relied on. He knows how to make money and burn warehouses all day long. I have to rush to the front at the critical moment. Wayne took the opportunity to black Austin, and talked to Veronica with his mind scattered. Senna doesn't know me, you know me, don't tell anyone about the blood of the protozoan. Seeing the social trash smiling evilly and hatefully, Veronica felt safe and took the initiative to hug him. It was so good to walk into Wayne's detective agency that night. Just as he was thinking, Willie's smirking face popped up in his mind. Veronica frowned fiercely. She didn't want to join the detective agency at first, but planned to go fishing. Willie instigated her. Damn it, this guy is everywhere. If you don't know, you would think Willie came first. Thinking of this, Veronica pushed Wayne away and punched him in the face. It's all your fault. Why are you so popular? Asshole. Go to hell. Wayne didn't think much about it. He looked at Veronica's back as she left angrily. He just thought that her tsundere disease had recurred. It was like this every time. She was pulled back to the starting point just after making some progress. You can't say there is no progress at all. Today, she kissed and hugged him, and she took the initiative. Wayne got the information. Veronica kissed him twice, punched him, and then left a back view. It was clear that he would see him in the bedroom at 3 o'clock tonight. No, see you in the bedroom at 3 o'clock tonight. But first. Wayne opened the door and strolled to the grove, brushing his fingertips over the green plants, and seeing the mandrill with his mind open. Great prophet to be, are you looking for me? Candidate Wayne, how are you thinking? I've thought about it for several days, and it's better to stay grounded. My dream is not to be a great prophet, that's too high. Wayne said with a serious face, telling the same dialogue as Senna. We are all adults, don't come here with those imaginary things, just make it look like everyone has a good relationship. The mandrill looked strange and said tentatively, what did High Priest Senna tell you again? Don't be emotional. She is not worthy of trust. She didn't talk about feelings. She showed her cards. She only talked about interests. Now it's up to you to make an offer. The turning point came so quickly that Mandrill was a little confused, so he patiently lowered the price. After 10 minutes of negotiation, the price was finally settled. Candidate Wayne, I can tell you in advance some inheritance that only a great prophet can master, but you must swear to the goddess that no matter what you hear, you will not tell it. Mandrill looked solemn. Wayne readily agreed and swore an oath to his loyal goddess in accordance with Mandrill's request. As for which goddess, this is the Church of Nature and can only be the natural teacher in the health room. Short skirt, garter stockings, stethoscope in hand, very gentle. A part of history is missing. The original alliance of life was not only nature, sun, moonlight, but also darkness and death. Even now, you can still see traces of the dark elves. Mandrill said slowly, it's normal for you to feel that something is missing, darkness and death. Only by mastering these two beliefs can you better communicate with nature. Great prophet, are you serious? Wayne's scalp was numb, feeling like he had been exposed to incredible knowledge. Could this be something that a child like him could hear? These were my speculations, and the results proved that I was right. After talking for a long time, I bet you are also a free mage. No wonder you can play with Gangplank. Wayne looked at Mandrill in surprise. It was not enough for the great prophet to learn 3 faiths. He secretly mastered the faith of darkness and death. This guy. Could it be the 25th generation? Wayne was startled. Great prophet, do other high-level officials know about this? I mean, do other high-level officials also master other faith magic? They probably don't know. Mandrill shook his head. The top brass of the natural church may not know, but the top brass of the dark church. It's shameful to say that back then, in order to prove his conjecture and obtain dark magic, he made an ulterior deal with the top brass of the dark church. He can't say this, as long as he knows it himself. Great prophet to be, I have received your sincerity. If nothing else happens, I will give up the selection of saints as soon as possible, but you have to arrange a competitor for me. I must defeat her before I can quit. After some exchanges, Mandrill reluctantly agreed and he would be responsible for the operation. One more thing, Candidate Wayne, be careful, someone is targeting you. Who? I don't know. Maybe it's the Pope or other high-level officials. 2 of my students received a letter. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 247. April 2nd. After a 20-day rest, the second round of the Saint Candidate assessment began. The magician engineering team at the headquarters worked hard for a long time to build a teleportation array around the villa. After several tests, the villa and the candidate were teleported away together. Mist. The forest shrouded in heavy fog seemed to be at the end of the world, and the gloomy atmosphere filled the fields. Because it was far away from the center of the world, the gray sunlight was particularly weak and could not dispel the cold breath in the air. The cold wind blew past, accompanied by the rustling of leaves, and unknown beasts made sharp calls, as if the dead souls came alive, repeating the desolation of death again and again. Wayne walked around the villa. The tall trees around him were hidden in the thick fog, half hidden and half visible, and the branches stretched out like ghosts, like twisted palms, calling to the living. The dead branches and leaves under Wayne's feet made a creaking sound. He smelled the decayed smell in the air and couldn't help but think of darkness and death. It's so weird. It's hard to imagine that this is the place where the Church of Nature tests the saints, and the Church of Darkness and the Church of Death are similar. According to the cheat sheet provided by Senna, the second round of assessment is a points system, and the candidates will be ranked according to the order in which they pass the dungeons. In addition, the church's senior officials will always pay attention to the performance of the candidates, and their scores are directly related to the points ranking. For example, the dungeon in front of us is called the Mist-Hidden Forest, a cursed land of darkness and death. The power of the magic believed by the Church of Nature is greatly reduced here. The candidates use their villas as their bases, collect 4 teleportation magic stones, and open the teleportation array to enter the next dungeon. There are many magic stones, enough for all candidates to enter the last dungeon. In principle, one villa is equipped with 4 magic stones, and candidates are not allowed to continue collecting after obtaining 4 magic stones, nor are they allowed to destroy them. Blah 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 and so on. As we all know, those who understand will understand, this is a subtext. It is possible in theory, but absolutely not in practice. It is not possible in principle, but it is completely possible in practice. When dreams shine into reality and when regulations encounter special circumstances, it is reasonable to make adjustments. Back to the point, Wayne walked around the villa, his mind scattered, trying to merge with nature, and the cold whispers that sounded like curses came into his ears, telling the horror of the death forest. People have different physiques. Other magicians think whispers drive people crazy, but Wayne just thinks this forest is very noisy. He can merge, but the lack of vitality in the mist-hidden forest is difficult to provide him with help. On the contrary, he has to use his own vitality to make up for the lack of balance. Don't contact me, I don't have such poor relatives as you. Wayne ended the conversation and suddenly became curious about this forest. The Book of Greed poked its head and said that there were deserts of darkness and death in the forest, which could be eaten. Because the desert was too small, the Book of Greed was not very motivated and was too lazy to extend its tentacles to waste time. Look at how I spoiled you. You just eat too much good things. What are you mumbling about? Are you saying bad things about me behind my back again? Veronica walked out of the villa with her bag on her back and raised her hand to punch Wayne. Well, I feel like you've gained weight recently. No way, where did you gain weight? Veronica was shocked. She had been exercising less recently and had eaten a lot of sweet talk. She also felt that her weight was out of control. Wayne glanced at Veronica's chest. As expected of him, he saw that Veronica had great potential at first glance. It just lacked an assistant. Look, it has grown up with a little help. Bang. Where are you looking? Veronica retracted her fist and snorted coldly, this place makes me very uncomfortable. Hurry up and find the teleportation stone. Since we are participating in the competition, we must win first place. Friendship first, competition second, winning or not is not important, the important thing is participation. Wayne shrugged, squatted down with his hands on the ground, and burst out magic to activate the roots underground. Amid the rumbling sound of the ground, the vine tentacles rolled the soil, wrapped the villa and sank deep underground. In order to prevent his old home from being stolen, he buried it very deep. He was confident that other candidates, except himself, would not have enough magic power to dig out the villa even if they found it. This is stable. Veronica nodded secretly. She never doubted the magic talent of social trash. She said it was good when she saw it, and she had never seen a bad review. Suddenly I remembered that there is no need to bury it so deep. The rules only say that you need to collect magic stones to teleport to the next level, but it does not say that you must use your own villa. Wayne raised his hand and touched his chin. I blew up my home, and then robbed other people's homes, or blew up other people's homes, leaving them with no way to go. Great, I thought of a lot of new tactics at once, and I can practice them. Too slow, not as fast as this. Veronica shook her fist. That's right. It makes sense without brains. Wayne agreed with Veronica's proposal and used fists as the first tactic. He spread his mind and explored the surrounding environment to determine his position on the big map. 5 minutes later, Wayne barely found his small black dot on the map. The fog interfered with his thinking. Every time it spread outward, the difficulty increased by 3 points. That meant if it were any other candidate, they would be no different from a blind man. As Wayne's thoughts spread, the Book of Greed gave several more reminders. There are a large number of vengeful spirits in the forest, and several of them can sign contracts to become vengeful spirits. Forget it, what do we need so many vengeful spirits for? Wayne hasn't recruited new employees for a long time. The last time he recruited was the last time. During this period, the Book of Greed reminded Lundan that there were several other good potential stocks, but he ignored them all. Indeed, the vengeful spirit can bring new talents to Wayne, such as Aubin's super sense of smell and supernatural induction, and Abo's supervision, which are all very practical abilities. And Aubin and Abo have their own areas of expertise, one controls the fog, and the other controls the river. As Wayne's strength increases and the Book of Greed continues to strengthen, the abilities of the two vengeful spirits are also strengthened. However, Wayne's own progress is too fast, and it feels that the vengeful spirit is difficult to keep up with his pace, and those talents are not as useful as his potential. Moreover, the two old employees have the attribute of earthbound spirits. If they die in Lundan, they will take root in Lundan. Even if Wayne wants a new vengeful spirit, he will not recruit people in the hidden mist forest. The location is unknown, and it is very likely that it is a different space controlled by the headquarters of the Church of Nature. The cost-effectiveness of recruiting people in the hidden mist forest is too low. In comparison, it is better to recruit local people in Lundan. They are available at any time and will not take long vacations. However, since he is here, Wayne decided to see what kind of goods these vengeful spirits are. He sank into the Book of Greed, turned the page where the vengeful spirit was located, and looked at the photos of the vengeful spirits that could be contracted one by one. Soon, Wayne's face became strange. These vengeful spirits are all girls. The girl who is about the same age as Veronica, her body has rotted into mud, her mind and soul have been imprisoned by the dark death, and she has become a special spirit. Similar to ghosts, translucent spirit bodies, some are decapitated or have mutilated limbs, and each of them died miserably, and their voices and smiles make people's scalps numb. The vengeful spirits received the invitation letter from the Book of Greed, and they responded positively to the opportunity to live again. The translucent spirit shook, floating pure and flawless, took off the makeup of the horror movie set, dressed up and put on the clothes of Princess Diaries. Rolled up. Wayne counted them one by one, 12 vengeful spirits, each of them had a good appearance in life, very much like Saint candidate. The Saint assessment will kill people, it shouldn't be, I haven't heard the teacher say. Wayne muttered in his heart, closed the Book of Greed, and did not sign a contract with anyone. The vengeful spirits did not wait for a response, and their resentment increased, and they returned to the midnight horror movie set again. When he first entered the mist-hidden forest, Wayne felt quite bad. These saint candidates who died miserably proved that the church headquarters was filthy, and they must have been very unhappy before they died with such a lot of resentment. For a moment, Wayne couldn't help but feel a little pity, and almost waved his hand to sign 12 employees in a row. It's a pity that he couldn't sign, it was too far away from Lundan. Wayne felt deeply regretful. Just as he was about to turn the page, he caught a glimpse of Veronica beside him. As candidates for the same saint, the difference between people is too great. With his good brother around, Veronica would definitely not end up dying in a foreign land. Because of Veronica, Wayne felt sympathy for the 12 vengeful spirits again. After a moment of hesitation, he decided to ask Senna after passing the test because of his conscience. If possible, add the hidden mist forest to the terms of cooperation. Alas, I am too kind. Wayne sighed and walked forward quickly. I'm sick again. Veronica tilted her head and followed Wayne, suspecting that social garbage and bad women were trading, and that she was under too much pressure and kept mumbling in recent days. Or, give him a little more reward? Boom. In a corner of the forest, several large trees broke down in succession, and the thick fog was pushed aside by the air wave, lingering in a short vacuum zone. Alex crossed his hands in front of his chest and stepped back to keep his balance. Looking at his sister Dussa, who was covered in dust, his melancholy eyes were filled with murderous intent. The two had bad luck. After entering the mist-hidden forest, they did not meet their ally Windsor, who had been friends for 100 years, at the first time. The birth point fell between the villas of the candidates of the two major divisions of Iberia and Greece. What was even more unfortunate was that the four saint candidates reached a cooperative relationship. 2 against 4, they were at a disadvantage when they met. 8 candidates were arranged in the mist-hidden forest. Alex and his sister came to the doorstep of their competitors as soon as they appeared. Their luck was extremely bad. Before they had time to make preparations, Villa number 8 of the brother and sister was demolished. The two candidates in the Iberia division were both women, and the Greece division was one man and one woman. They were sisters and brothers to the outside world. Dussa was still observing who was the candidate and who was the bodyguard. All 4 candidates had good looks. Even the male bodyguard who had been identified was as good looking as Alex, a standard handsome man. If it was 2 on 2, Alex was not at all inferior to his opponent, but when it was 2 on 4, when his opponent was many times his, he could do nothing even if he wanted to. Dussa gave her brother a look. Delay. Delay until the allies with a century-old friendship arrived. 5 minutes later, 4 against 2 stood on both sides of the chaotic battlefield, clearly divided. All 6 were covered in dust. In the situation of superior numbers, the 4 candidates from Iberia and Greece only had the upper hand but not crushed, which showed that the talents of the two divisions were declining and no longer as glorious as before. Of course, it can also be said that the Frank division is still strong and has survived all the storms. Alex panted and asked his sister if she wanted to show her trump card. Dussa shook her head slightly. It was not the right time yet. Wait a minute. The 4 candidates surrounded her and provoked her with words, but they all kept a certain distance tacitly. What a cute little sister, she is so beautiful even with a face full of dust. Lord, go and kiss her. The saint candidate must remain pure. This is a rare opportunity. She will be eliminated today. Why me? You are the only man. If you don't kiss her, who else can you kiss? Ah, this. The 4 candidates talked one after another, and slowly narrowed the encirclement like a cross stalk. Because they were allies who were as solid as a rock, they all wanted their allies to take action. No one was a fool. They guessed that Alex and his sister still had trump cards that they hadn't revealed. Since no one dared to kiss, why don't I do it for you? Wayne's voice spread through the thick fog. The source of the sound was unpredictable, and it could be anywhere. The 4 candidates retreated cautiously to one place, guarding against the possible sneak attack at any time, and then saw Wayne and Veronica walked out openly. No sneak attack. The 4 of them were all stunned. Giving up the advantage of being in the dark while the enemy was in the light, they were either extremely confident in their own strength, or they were brainless fools. The candidates for the Saints are all elites in various divisions, and the possibility of being fools is extremely low. Even if there are really fools with explosive talents, they will be accompanied by a think tank. Needless to say, the Comer appeared openly, and must be too powerful to be attacked by sneak attacks. Alex, you are in such a miserable situation. It seems that I need to re-evaluate our alliance relationship. Wayne mocked loudly, and then said, Sister Dussa, you are not a good brother. Listen to me, come and be my sister, and brother Wayne will love you. Dussa turned her head and raised a middle finger to Wayne in her heart. Alex smiled bitterly and shook his head, without explaining anything. When the allies entered the scene, he was relieved. Having been neighbors for more than a month, he has some understanding of Wayne. He believes that the century-old friendship does exist. At least now Wayne will not tear up the non-aggression treaty. Next is our turn, brother and sister. Wayne originally wanted to fight 4 people alone, but seeing Veronica eager to try, he decisively changed to mixed doubles and smiled at the other side. "Don't panic, 2 against 4, you have the advantage in numbers." After the voice fell, he clenched his fist and swung it forward. The wind howled, the chaotic fog sea exploded, and the strong wind pushed away the fog vortex. The branches swayed wildly in the wind, and the twisted trees bent their waists and made a creaking sound under the heavy load. The violent hurricane came in front of them, and the 4 candidates retreated away one after another, and the formation was dispersed in an instant. Swish! The fog exploded behind Wayne, and Veronica rushed out first and picked the saint candidate with the best figure. There was no other meaning, and it was definitely not to guard against Wayne, nor because this person's figure was very similar to Willie. 1 against 3, your numbers are more advantageous. Wayne's mouth curled up, and he walked into the fog with his fists clenched. 5 minutes later. Behave yourself, men stand on the left, women stand on the right, hands against the tree, whoever doesn't obey, I will take off their clothes. Wayne scolded the 4 captives to obey, turned to Veronica and said, "They are indeed the elites of the major divisions," shouting love and bond and so on, and rushed over. I lost my mind and almost got defeated by the 3 of them. Veronica rolled her eyes. How are you going to deal with these 4 guys? Kill the men and leave the women? Be serious. Very serious. Okay, the rules of the rivers and lakes have always been like this, unless it is water margin. Wayne complained in his heart, looking at the 4 candidates with angry faces, and glared at them fiercely. What are you looking at? If you are not as good as others, just obey. This is an examination room, and the invigilators are watching. You don't want to be eliminated because you are not wearing clothes, right? The lethality is off the charts, not only the opponents, but also the people themselves are panicking. Alex clenched his fist and coughed wildly, reminding Wayne not to talk nonsense, because there was really an invigilator grating on the side. Wayne said it didn't matter. He had already decided to withdraw from the selection. If nothing unexpected happened, this would be his last assessment. Instead of pretending to be a gentleman and being tied up, it would be better to do whatever he wants. Why don't I come up with an idea? Dussa raised her hand weakly and said the most cruel execution method in the most gentle words, Wayne, kiss all 4 of them and make them lose their qualification to advance. As expected of you, you are so petty. Wayne rolled his eyes at Dussa and said unhappily, impossible, Veronica knows me, I can kiss anything but men. Shut up, who told you to care about her? Veronica kicked Wayne on the leg and said unhappily, Dussa, we saved you and your sister once, it's time for you to repay us, let your brother kiss all 4 of them. Alex, that's not necessary. The 2 female college students had a fierce argument about who was on top and who was kissed, and they all asked the other's brother to kiss them. Okay, stop arguing, I'll say something fair. Wayne waved his hand to separate the 2, I'll be a little aggrieved, kiss more, 3 women belong to me, Alex was just injured, and he can't keep up with the physical strength, just kiss 1 man, it's a perfect solution to the problem. The man belongs to you too, you are from Windsor. Dussa disagreed. You are stereotyping. After a lot of bargaining, no one kissed in the end. Wayne was just talking. He valued first kisses very much and would not give them away just because the other party was beautiful. He took a villa and gave it to Alex and his sister, and let the 4 candidates compete for the other villa. With a move of alienation, the alliance relationship between the 4 people instantly became tense. WWT Co. After hiding the birth point, Alex and his sister looked for teleportation magic stones. They had made a deal with Wayne and knew where there were ready-made stones to pick up. Wayne was also not vague. If he didn't make a move, it would be fine. If he made a move, he broke the record of passing the level. He easily got 4 magic stones, activated the teleportation array and the villa and entered the next copy. According to the rules, in this map, he and Veronica no longer have a 100-year friendship alliance. And there is only one competitor. According to the arrangement of Senna and Tubi, his opponent in the last battle of the Saint selection is Flora's student Odelia. The referees are all my people, what can you use to fight me? Wayne looked at the dark sky and the blue water ball in the distance. Although he had already looked at the map, his heart still beat faster. On the desolate surface of the moon, a villa stood alone. From a distance, the blue water ball was magnificent and quietly suspended in the starry universe. At the highest point of the barrier that shielded the vacuum universe, a ruby glowed and burned like a living thing. Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 248. Headquarters of the Church of Nature, Meeting Hall. The Pope controlled the crystal ball, looked at Wayne, who was the first to enter the moon's surface, shook his head and commented, "It's too chaotic. His performance makes it hard for me to believe that he has the spirit of chivalry." The lunar copy is called Sky City. It is one of the 3 altars of the Life Alliance. It was originally the Holy Land of the Moonlight Church. Because of the covenant of the Life Alliance, it was shared with the 2 allies of nature and sun. It can be regarded as resource sharing between allies. Unlike the hidden mist forest, Sky City is of great significance. The Church of Nature can use it, but it has no power to control it. Only a few high-level people can enter and exit freely. The Pope, the Saint, and the Great Prophet are the 3 most respected people in the Church of Nature. The Great Prophet predicted the importance of the Saint's election. He said a lot of great truths. No one knows whether it is true or not. Anyway, it is not the first time he has boasted. It doesn't matter if the Great Prophet doesn't say it. Since he made a prophecy, the Pope must pay attention to it. He circled a piece of land outside Sky City for the copy of the Saint candidate assessment. So, when it was the Nightmare Corridor, the Great Prophet held the crystal ball, and this time it was the Pope's turn to control the crystal ball. Seeing that Wayne released his nature and used threats and intimidation, the Pope gave him a bad review, thinking that Wayne lacked chivalry. Nonsense. Senna sneered, how could Wayne not have chivalry? What excessive things did he do to the 3 candidates for the Saint, kissed or touched them? None. It was just a threat. This is called psychological tactics. Tubi highly agreed with the Pope's evaluation. Indeed, Wayne was not worthy of being a knight, his moral character was corrupt, and there was nothing about his body that was related to a knight. He would not and could not become a knight chosen by God. In this case, let's fight the Great Prophet. The 3 of them had their own faces, a group of nuclear weapons, and other church leaders were happy to see it. Compared with the performance of the candidates for the Saint, the intrigues of these 3 were much more interesting. Le.jpg. Deputy Captain Gavin was not in the mood. A few days ago, Senna met him privately and asked him to contact the natural knight Mura. Wayne has the talent of a knight chosen by God. He is the future of the church and the hope of the church. In order to prevent the Great Prophet from doing something secretly, he must meet with Mr. Mura. Whether he can pass the test is not important. The key is to grasp this hope. The church is now rotten and urgently needs fresh blood to inject strength. Gavin is the only one in the entire natural church who can contact Mura. Senna hopes that he can get it done as soon as possible and must not give the Great Prophet time to play tricks. Gavin knows exactly what Senna is up to. This woman only has power in her eyes. She keeps saying that she is doing it for the good of the church, but in fact she only cares about her own interests. Having said that, Gavin still contacted Mura. He admired Wayne very much. When he first met Wayne, Gavin firmly believed that this kid was a character. If he was well trained, he would become a great man in the future. After contact, Mura was playing cards in the frozen continent. His card partners were the Sun Knight and the Moonlight Knight, and they were too busy to spare time. Playing cards was just a joke. There was no reason for the three god-chosen knights to have nothing to do and go to the frozen continent to play cards. The specific task involved the oracle of the goddess, and it was inconvenient to disclose. If you ask, it was playing cards, and the natural knight Mura kept losing, and he almost lost the elemental mantra. Knowing that Gavin had found a very outstanding junior and was very likely to be delayed by the great prophet, Mura immediately said that he would return to the church headquarters as soon as possible and asked Gavin to keep an eye on him so that he would not be secretly calculated by certain people. Certain people can refer to the great prophet, the Pope, Senna, and other oracle high priests. Calculated in this way, it seems that there are no good people except Gavin. After the Pope finished his comments, he waved his hand to switch the crystal ball screen, and the camera came to other candidates. There is nothing good to see on Wayne's side. If nothing unexpected happens, he will break the record again. Instead of wasting time on him, it is better to see the performance of other candidates. Several oracle priests all agreed, because someone was too outstanding, raising expectations, and making the candidate they supported seem mediocre and without any characteristics. It's uncomfortable to watch, so it's better not to watch it. The moon. Veronica looked at the aquamarine planet, subconsciously reached out to grab the distant universe, and excitedly looked at Wayne beside her, but found that the other party did not show much interest in the Earth. Wayne, what are you looking at? There. Wayne raised his hand to the sky, and the fiery red gem was filled with strong fire elements, as if it was a gathering place for fire elements. Through continuous compression and quantitative change, it has become a physical object with mass. Not only a physical object, but also a living thing. Because of the strong affinity with fire elements, Wayne can feel that a life form is sleeping. He tried to connect with it with his mind, but was blocked by the barrier and could not see its true appearance. Wayne was itching and wanted to blow up the barrier with a punch. After thinking about it, he decided to forget it. The barrier stabilized the pressure on the surface of the moon, brought in air, moisture, and gravity that was almost the same as that of the God-chosen continent. If it really exploded. It's unrealistic. If it could really explode, it would have exploded long ago. How could it be his turn? Speaking of which, this map is called the City in the Sky. I saw the sky, high up. Where is the city? Wayne contacted Veronica. He searched for a long time but didn't see the so-called city. Veronica responded and told Wayne not to think too much. She had read the legend of the city in the sky in the textbook. It was said to be the palace of the moon goddess in the human world, and it had extraordinary significance. It was because of its great significance that it must have hidden good things, so it was worth treasure hunting. Wayne suspected that one of his lost items was hidden by Teacher Moonlight in the music room, and the music room was the Sky City. After searching for half an hour, Wayne couldn't find the gate of the Sky City, so he had to give up. Veronica did the questions obediently, filled the answer sheet according to the cheat sheet, collected all the teleportation magic stones, a total of 10, and put them all away. First come, first served, Odelia was destined to get nothing. 10 minutes passed. Half an hour passed. An hour passed. Odelia was still late, and Wayne sighed, Veronica, don't wait, it's too late, let's eat first. No, I'm losing weight. Don't make a fuss, lose weight first to lose breasts, it's not easy to grow, and my previous efforts will not be in vain if I lose weight. Wayne dragged Veronica back to the house, dragging all the way, leaving 2 scratches on the pale ground. Boom. The halo of the teleportation array was turned on, and the villa marked number 3 appeared in front of the 2. Odelia is here. Villa number 3, it turns out she is the neighbor. Wayne was speechless. If it weren't for the top management's trouble, if he was a little bolder, if it weren't for Plank's help, causing the great prophet to arrange villa number 8 next to villa number 4, he would be able to see Odelia every day when he opened the window. In more than a month, Not to mention Odelia herself, her roommate is pregnant. The task assigned by the teacher was easily completed, it was perfect, why drag it on until now? Veronica's eyes lit up, and she raised her fist to tear down the house. Wayne raised his hand to stop. Don't worry, the advantage is mine, play with her first. I'll deal with her later, you are not allowed to make trouble, Veronica snorted coldly. Ever since those photos were exposed, Veronica has regarded Odelia as her lifelong enemy. The grudges of the previous generation were small, and the grudges of this generation are big. Even though the crystal ball proved Wayne's innocence, Veronica was still a little unhappy and vowed to seize today's opportunity to smash Odelia's glasses. Wayne shrugged and did not object. It was interesting to think about the quarrel between first loves. A bold guess is that Veronica is stronger than Odelia. The latter has experienced a disastrous defeat and can't stand Veronica's arrogant attitude. Her competitive spirit is aroused. Maybe she slept with Veronica's fiancé in anger. Wonderful. The door opened and two slender figures walked out. The literary girl is still elegant, and the girl next to her is first class in appearance and temperament. Her lavender eyes are smart and deep, like two crystal gems. Standing next to Odelia, they have not become green leaves to set off the flowers. Wayne took a closer look. He has seen too many beauties recently, and he feels that they are just like this. Ordinary stuff. It's actually the two of them. Odelia looked at Wayne and Veronica in surprise, frowning to hide her panic. The girl with lavender eyes said slowly, Odelia, do you know them? Well, the two candidates in the Windsor division, I didn't compete with them, which caused your sister to be unable to participate in the sane selection. Odelia was in a dilemma, she came with a mission today. Flora explained that in the map of the Sky City, Odelia and Regina will encounter two powerful enemies, and they must win no matter what. For this reason, Flora also prepared some small props. The source of the props is unknown, Flora did not mention a word, and a conspiracy atmosphere made Odelia breathless. The Pope stood behind the teacher, Odelia knew very well, guessing that two candidates performed well and threatened the Pope, so. Unexpectedly, it was an acquaintance. If possible, Odelia didn't want to fight Veronica and Wayne, but it was difficult to disobey the master's order, and Regina also received the same task, so it was not up to her to decide whether it would work or not. Long time no see, Odelia, you've become more beautiful again. Wayne took Veronica forward, raised his hand and took out two photos from his arms, and said affectionately, fate is too cruel. Some time ago, we were still snuggling together and talking sweetly, and we were talking about marriage. In the blink of an eye, we have become competitors. Veronica glared at him, bastard, why do you still keep these photos? Knowing that social garbage is playing psychological tactics, that is, disgusting people, Veronica suppressed her anger and prepared to sort the garbage after returning. Why keep the photos? Don't come in if you don't explain it clearly today. Wayne's ability to provoke fire is first class, instantly putting Veronica into a fighting state, and adding an angry halo. He waved his hand and threw the photo out, and the wind element swept over and landed in front of Odelia and Regina. Looking at the couple cuddling together in the photo, Odelia's face was full of black lines, and Regina's mouth opened into an O shape, pointing at her teammates and then at Wayne. So you are not pure. Don't get me wrong, the photo is taken at a wrong angle. Odelia was powerless to defend herself, and seeing Wayne was smug, she got angry and snatched the photo. Didn't catch it? The breeze rolled the photo back to Wayne's hand. While talking about the night of passion, he put the precious memories into his arms. Sensing the questioning eyes of her teammates, Odelia was almost angry to death, and gritted her teeth and said, don't listen to his nonsense, he has several girlfriends, and he is the best at deceiving women. Several girlfriends? X2. Veronica tilted her head. Is there such a thing? How could she not know? Regina was even more skeptical. Although Wayne could not become the son of God, the church had strict rules. Even bodyguards had to be pure. How could he have several girlfriends? Odelia, no need to explain. Explanation is concealment, and concealment is the truth. Wayne waved his hand. Do you remember our agreement? When we are both eliminated, we will go back to London to get married. Dream on. I'd be crazy to marry you. Odelia couldn't stand it anymore. She waved her hand and shot a green light, which went straight to Wayne's chest. She couldn't stand it, and Veronica couldn't stand it even more. She took a step forward, waved her fist wind to disperse the parasitic spores, and her body was as fast as lightning. She picked up Odelia by the waist and rushed into Villa number 3 in the back. Boom. 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 The house was demolished. Wayne looked over and hoped that Veronica would be gentle. They were sisters in the same bed in the future. There was no need to embarrass everyone. Regina moved to block Wayne's sight and said meticulously, Regina Miller, the candidate for the Saint of the Prussian Division. She was dressed in black, with a white shirt inside, black boots on her feet, and slim and straight trousers. She was dressed neatly without any fancy. So you are the candidate of the Prussian Division. My name is Wayne. I am very honored to be your opponent. Wayne switched to Prussian skillfully. He didn't know this foreign language before, but he learned it unconsciously. It's hard to say where he learned it. It may be Mi-6 in Windsor or Frank's intelligence agency. The familiar language made Regina feel a lot of favor, and she turned and said, friendly reminder, you and your teammates have been crossed out because of your excellent performance. You will be eliminated today. Is it really okay to say that? Many people are listening, Wayne sighed. This girl doesn't seem to be very smart. Don't worry, no one is focusing on this place now. Regina smiled slightly. Do you understand what I said? Wayne frowned, then relaxed. Thank you for reminding me. As a thank you, I will let you lose decently. You look pretty good, except for your tough talk. No wonder you can chase Odelia as your girlfriend. Regina raised her fists with both hands. This is the moon. Faith magic and elemental magic have been weakened. I'm sorry, I can't give you an exit ceremony to show your strength. Okay, no more talking. If you continue, I will guess who is targeting me. Wayne shook his head. You look pretty good, too. If you don't become a saint, come to me in London and give you a vigorous love. Since no one is paying attention, he doesn't need to pretend to be a gentleman. Humph. Regina snorted coldly, and white flying sand exploded under her feet. The essence of life far exceeded that of ordinary candidates. In almost the blink of an eye, the fist with white gloves came to Wayne. Snap. Wayne caught it steadily, tightened his 5 fingers and bent Regina's fist to the side. Good, almost hit it. Use a little more force, your future boyfriend will be in trouble. A flash of surprise flashed in Regina's eyes, but she didn't think much about it. A faint red light spread around her body, and the tip of her fist was surrounded by high-temperature flames, and her strength suddenly increased by 3 points. The effect was average, and Wayne still held it tightly in his hand. He hummed twice, but didn't pull it out. Sweating all over, sister. Regina stared at her fist in a daze. The fire element was fading, the flame was extinguished, and the fire element she could control was cut off from the place where she was in contact or close to Wayne. It's hard to describe. This is the first time she has encountered this situation. It's as if her blood betrayed her. Scramble to defect, for fear of being a step slower. No, it's more like being suppressed than betrayal. Wayne, your bloodline. Ordinary people have a slightly stronger affinity for elements. Wayne explained kindly, and while speaking, his eyes passed Regina and looked at Villa number 3, which was demolished into ruins. Odelia and Veronica were fighting closely, without using magic, pure melee. Although she was suppressed and fell into a disadvantage, she still fought back and forth with Veronica, and the fight was evenly matched. Wayne was sharp-eyed and saw the same flame on Odelia. "Look here, pay attention and focus." Regina was very polite and reminded Wayne before throwing a punch. The effect was still average. Wayne held both fists steadily, and the way he twisted his body hard looked like a young couple playing on the street. Realizing that she could not fight Wayne in terms of strength, Regina's eyes flashed, and she looked at Wayne with his middle door wide open, and head-butted him. Wayne loosened his hands and held Regina in his arms with a move. Regina's eyes changed, and raging flames burst out all over her body. The scorching torch rose high, melting the surrounding white sand at high temperature, and burning a molten red pit. At the edge, the colorful crystals gradually hardened. The ruby in the sky that Wayne could not contact responded to Regina. A red light column with a diameter of 5 meters fell and turned into a blazing red firebird behind Regina. The wings of the firebird folded, and it hugged Wayne just as Wayne hugged Regina. The surging fire waves and hot air rolled up, burning Regina without any temper. She continued to release the power of her bloodline, rising to the peak, calling for the response of the phoenix, but Wayne did not move, and not even a hair was burned. Who of us is the bloodline of the phoenix? Regina was convinced. She was told that her competitor was very strong and would be eliminated in advance, but she was not told that her competitor had the same blood as her. Moreover, the purity of her blood was stronger than hers, and her life essence completely crushed her. Wayne embraced the beauty, saying perfunctory love words, and tightened his arms, making Regina look ugly. She was very tough. Even though she was trembling with pain, she did not beg for mercy, and did not even groan in pain. Boom! On the pale earth, 2 pillars of fire shot up into the sky, intersected in the air, and turned into an immortal bird with a wingspan of 100 meters. The immortal bird was red all over, with its head held high. The blazing golden flames turned into a crown. The bird had a sharp beak and curved claws, shining with a metallic luster like a sword. With a deafening cry, the wings spread out and rolled up a stream of hot air, and the golden feathers were spread out. The elegant body wrapped in high temperature twisted the air, and from a distance it looked like a small sun rising slowly. Beautiful, but dangerous. At the same time, 2 figures hid outside the barrier, observing quietly without saying a word. They are the Pope's people. The Pope doesn't want Wayne to continue to perform and is ready to drive him away, so the letter, and the person who left the portal in the Prophet's Hall was not the Pope. Maybe, it doesn't matter who it is now, kill him and put the blame on the Pope. I understand, it's all his fault, he shouldn't be there. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 249. Boom. The wings of the phoenix spread out, and the rhythmic golden light extended left and right, surrounded by flames, and golden light and fire rain fell. ... Wayne looked up at the sky and smelled a huge vitality in the sea of fire that covered the sky. Unlike the vitality of the cycle of birth and death in nature, the vitality of the phoenix is uplifting, radical and strong. The former is like a shield that protects everything, and the latter is like a spear that destroys everything. They can be regarded as the same source, but each has its own emphasis. In the flame surrounded by the phoenix, 2 slender figures stood side by side, wearing combat uniforms woven with golden dense scales, one-piece slim fit, and beautiful figures were visible at a glance. Wayne narrowed his eyes slightly, and his supervision penetrated the flames to see the figures of the 2 women clearly. What is the use of such good vision? Wayne secretly regretted and refocused. In his sight, the 2 women stood in the dim firelight. The golden combat uniforms were not visible, and the beautiful curves immediately became sexy. Manual coding, the effect is the same as wearing no clothes. The sound of wind came from the side, and Veronica came to Wayne's side and said unhappily, "It's the blood of the phoenix. Odelia actually has this blood. It's really hidden. No wonder she can replace the quota of the Prussian division." "Maybe." Wayne did not comment. Based on the information provided by Regina and his limited understanding of this map, he probably guessed who the church leaders behind the two women were. The Pope. Not every large division can find supporters in the church's top leaders. For example, in the two major divisions of Iberia and Greece, the strength of the candidates can only be considered mid-level. Talented but not so genius, without support, they are just background boards for running with others. Others bring cheat sheets into the examination room, and they need to do the questions themselves. At most, they will be eliminated in the second round, and it is impossible to enter the finals. The top management randomly arranged a strong competitor, and the candidates of the two divisions could not get high scores. The Windsor division did not have the support of the top management at the beginning. Senna and Sci-fi had long lost contact. Because of Veronica's dragon blood talent and Senna's desire for the saint, the Windsor division got the reference answer. The church headquarters is in Austria, which now belongs to Prussia. There are a total of 6 candidates. The 6 candidates cannot all be the pawns of the Pope. The other top management still have to make a living, but Odelia and Regina are definitely. The copy of the Sky City was provided by the Pope. Regina made it clear that no one is paying attention now. There is no flower or grass on the surface of the moon, and the elves who can communicate with nature have no home advantage here. Odelia's teacher Flora was once a saint supported by the Pope, and she has the same phoenix blood as Regina. The phoenix blood can echo the ruby in the sky and occupy the home advantage. All signs show that the Pope is behind the two, and has received orders to attack the Windsor division with all his strength and make them withdraw from the second round at all costs. It is certain that the Pope holds the phoenix blood and can give it to whoever he wants, just like Senna in the past. In order to train Sci-fi to become a saint, he injected her with dragon blood. It is just unclear when Odelia had the blood of the phoenix. It should not be recently, otherwise Flora would not be able to persuade the Pope to change the quota. She had the blood of the phoenix when she was very young, and it is very likely from Flora. Wayne made an analysis and regarded Flora as Senna, which could explain the phoenix blood in Odelia. The saint is so miserable. She is manipulated by the upper echelons. Whoever they want to take the position can take the position. Wayne murmured to himself, no wonder Flora retired and retired. She can only do some idle work such as trimming flowers and plants. During her tenure, she was disobedient to discipline and was disliked by the Pope, so her career was cut off. Wayne said that Flora was disobedient to discipline, not that she was eager for power and ambition. The reason is simple, she does not have the ability. The people who wrestle with the Pope are either the oracle priests or the great prophets. All the church high-level officials who hold real power. Flora is not in this circle and is not even an opponent. She desires equal power, so she can only be called disobedient. Poor tool, he worked hard to train Odelia for so many years, but in the end, she is just a tool of the Pope. Wayne sighed. The Pope could not support Odelia to become a saint. He had people of his own who were more trustworthy. Odelia, an outsider, could only do dirty work. Veronica, the task assigned by the teacher has been completed. Wayne sighed, reading thousands of books is not as good as traveling thousands of miles. This is so true. I thought the Ministry of Magic at my doorstep was full of smoke and dust, and the senior officials were not human. I never expected that the senior officials of the church headquarters could be so low. These people in power did not treat people other than themselves as human beings at all. It's boring. Wayne was bored for a while, looking at the fluttering phoenix, and he lost his fighting spirit for a while. With these insects, the church could not have a future. This was his first time to come to the church headquarters, and if nothing unexpected happened, it would be the last time. In the future, he would not come even if he was begged. If he violated the rules, he would be a hammer. Rumble. The sea of fire shrank and rolled in the sky. In the red cloud, the elemental firebird had a wingspan of 100 meters and swooped down in a blazing rainbow. Veronica's eyes shone with brilliance, and fine white scales appeared on her arms. The magic power under her feet burst out, and she clenched her fists and flew into the air. She was pulled down by Wayne's ankle. "What are you doing?" Veronica felt bad. She thought of something and said angrily, "At this time, you still want to protect her? What is your relationship with her?" "Not yet having sex." Wayne patted Veronica on the shoulder and said seriously, "I will deal with them quickly. I will retire after this fight. I miss Chris and Willie." "What is this mess?" The logic was too confusing, and Veronica didn't understand it. She noticed that Wayne was in a bad mood and wanted to vent, so she simply let her opponent out. Magic power erupted from Wayne's feet, cutting through the airwaves like a sharp sword and rising into the air. The fist edge circled the wind blade and hit the sharp beak of the phoenix. After a brief stalemate, the phoenix's swooping force became stronger and defeated the wind blade. The remaining force suppressed Wayne and fell from the sky. Huge flames surrounded him from the left and right, and the phoenix's wings contracted, transforming into a ball of flames, tightly wrapping Wayne inside. Regina seized the opportunity and shouted, "Ottilia, do it now." The bloodline of the phoenix has been developed by the church for many years. It has a large number of supporting magics and is very powerful when used. Some of them are even superior to divine magic. Regina and Ottilia both have shortcomings and cannot cast the destructive blood magic independently. Just like the phoenix elemental body in front of them, they can only be released by joining forces. Ottilia looked hesitant. Bloodline magic was very powerful. She could kill 1,000 enemies and suffer 800 losses to herself. It didn't matter if she suffered 800 losses to herself. She could continue to participate in the selection of saints after recuperating from her injuries. It is difficult to kill 1,000 enemies. She hates Wayne's bad words, but she does not hate Wayne as a person. In a sense, Wayne is her first good friend. One careless move and you lose everything. Ottilia hesitated for a moment and missed the best opportunity. When she hurriedly took action, Wayne had already rushed in front of Regina. The phoenix transformed by the fire element is powerless against Wayne. Wherever he goes, the fire element will be cast. It's not a surrender, but a surrender. "Fire elemental, I will lead the charge." The fire-colored ball shrunk at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wayne swam in the ocean of fellow villagers, bursting out his magic power several times and rushing to Regina. Seeing the latter bursting out with magic power and holding back his ultimate move, without thinking much, he swung a powerful and heavy fist and struck it. Everyone loves beauty, so Wayne couldn't bear to break Regina's beautiful face, so he punched Regina in the chest, dissipating the magic power and interrupting the spell casting. Regina felt severe pain in her chest, her eyes blurred, the pain spread throughout her body, and she almost fainted. She withstood the blow with a will far beyond ordinary people's. She put her 5 fingers together into a knife, wrapped in flames and slashed towards Wayne's neck. Boom! Wayne held Regina's shoulders with both hands, and hit the opponent's chest and abdomen with his knee. The magic power under his feet exploded, and he exchanged legs and delivered 2 consecutive hits with his knee. With 1 punch and 2 kicks, he went all out, showing no mercy. Regina was shaking with pain, half of her body was limp, one hand tightly grasped Wayne's collar, her pale face was filled with fighting spirit in her eyes. "Keep going, she can still fight. Regina, remember to find me in London." Wayne flipped Regina over with the knife, grabbed her wrist, swung it round and threw her to the ground. Veronica frowned slightly when she saw the golden figure flying backwards, and raised her hand to catch it. The next second, he threw it directly to the ground. Without Regina, the elemental body of the phoenix collapsed and could no longer be maintained. The little flame sun fell apart and began to disintegrate. Without saying much, Wayne burst out with magic power under his feet, trampling the air and rushing toward Ottilia. Speed, strength, neurological reactions. The essence of life was crushed in all aspects. Ottilia only had time to set up a barrier when she saw the fist rapidly enlarging in front of her eyes. Wayne shattered the magic defense with one punch, turned his fist into a palm and clasped Ottilia's neck, tightening his fingers so that she could not breathe. Ottilia grabbed Wayne's wrist and felt like she was fighting a monster in human skin. The force was strong enough to crush her neck in an instant. Rightward arrow. This ruthless guy shouldn't have hesitated just now. Ottilia was extremely upset and determined not to surrender. She stared at Wayne fiercely, trying to kill him with her eyes. Your journey as a saint ends here. There is no need to struggle anymore. Go back and fall in love. That is the most important thing in life. Remember to prioritize me. Wayne spoke slanderous words, and punched Ottilia hard on the chest and abdomen with his long-prepared fists. The latter's body stooped, her eyes widened on her pale face, her thinking stagnated, and she lost consciousness and almost fainted. Don't hold on, try it. It's really comfortable to lie flat. Wayne comforted him and punched out again. Ottilia rolled her eyes beautifully, her limbs hanging down weakly, unable to speak the truth, and she was rendered speechless and turned into autistic. Wayne raised his hand and put it on his shoulders, causing it to fall freely, inserting his legs into the moon's surface. He walked towards Veronica and patted his butt. How is it? I didn't disappoint you, was it fast? Why are you touching her butt? How is that possible? You must be dazzled. I can see clearly, you clearly touched it? That's what the hand means, it wants to touch. Wayne muttered that the subconscious behavior was not his intention. He suspected that the tentacle virus had spread and his hands had been infected and had become self-aware. He placed Ottilia next to Regina, touched the fire element ring on his hand, and said to Veronica, take all the magic stones away, leave no one behind, and demolish their house by the way. No, the house has been demolished. Veronica nodded and was about to dig the villa out of the ground. Seeing Wayne squatting beside Ottilia, she was annoyed and kicked him. Wayne's center of gravity was unstable. He held up his hands and pressed Ottilia's shoulders, and said speechlessly, what are you doing? I almost kissed her. I should say this. What are you doing? Do you want to kiss her? If I wanted to kiss her, I wouldn't have held my hands just now. That's what the hand means. That makes sense. Wayne was hit by the boomerang and was unable to refute. He had to explain, this map has a conspiracy, deliberately targeting the two of us. Tubi and Senna were not good at doing things. They only knew to arrange Ottilia to go to the dungeon, but they didn't know that the Pope had the same intention and arranged the map of the Sky City. The referee's site is somewhere else. This is in the wilderness, so far away from the earth. I must wake him up, otherwise a pervert will come. You are a girl, understand what I mean. It's quite thoughtful. Veronica thought about it and still refused to accept it. If you don't become that pervert, there will be no perverts. Go prepare the teleportation array, and I will wake them up. A gentleman also has to be on guard. Can this world be better? Wayne complained and left. He wanted to wake up Ottilia and secretly send her first kiss while Veronica was not paying attention, but he could only wait for London to see it. The ground rumbled and shook, and Villa number 4 rose from the ground. Regina put her hands on her hips, watching the light of the teleportation array flash and disappear, and frowned fiercely. Ottilia, why don't you do it? Are you an undercover? Ottilia squatted on the ground, raised her hands and drew circles, unable to explain. She felt like an undercover. My head was as big as a bucket, and I couldn't think of how to explain to the teacher. Regina snorted coldly, if I had known you were an undercover, I might as well arrange my sister to go. The two of them scolded and responded, doing nothing, waiting for the response from the headquarters. Soon, the portal opened, and a figure appeared in front of the two. Graceful figure, beautiful face. Flora. Priest. Teacher. Odalia bowed her head and said, sorry, I disappoint you, I failed to complete the task. Flora had a cold face, without a word of reprimand, and led the two away. On the other side, Wayne stood in front of the window of the villa, looking at the dark rain curtain, wondering if there was a third map. It shouldn't be. He remembered clearly that it was written on Senna's cheat sheet that there were only 2 copies in the second round, and the scores were scored in the order of passing the levels. Could it be that the Pope had a backhand? Wayne suspected the Pope at the first time. In order to drive him out of the selection, the Pope prepared a series of plans. It would be best if Odalia and Regina could win. If they couldn't win, there would be conspiracies and tricks behind. The dark rain clouds covered the sky, thunder streaked, and white light illuminated the world. Under the heavy rain, the dead forest stretches along the mountains, and in contrast to the noisy rainstorm, it quietly lurks in the silent darkness. Looking far away, there is no trace of the sea nor river. This is not the villa where the candidates rest. What's the matter? Did you move after the promotion? Veronica came to Wayne and looked at the continuous rain outside the window. I didn't see Dus's villa. Did they fail to promote? It's not that simple. Be prepared for battle. The enemy this time is not as kind as Odalia and Regina. Wayne squinted his eyes, and his thoughts spread to communicate with the surrounding forests as the state of balance slowly dissipated. 2 figures hidden in the corner suddenly appeared. Here they come. The earth rumbled and shook, and cracks spread rapidly. The earth dragon with the rock body broke through the surface and drilled out of the cracks in the earth. The huge body shook the earth and slapped the abyss cracks to swallow Villa number 4. Wayne and Veronica jumped out of the villa. The crack spread to the bottom of their bodies. It was pitch black and bottomless. The two of them burst out their magic power and walked away into the air, moving to a safe place. The earth dragon flew close to the ground like a giant python, and smashed through the layers of rain curtains like a hill. Its fierce means were obviously aimed at taking people's lives, and there was a clear difference between it and the slightly cute Odalia duo. The two still wanted to fight fairly, so that Wayne would lose and accept it with conviction. Wayne grabbed Veronica with one hand and raised his 5 fingers with the other hand. His mind reshaped nature, lifted the vine tentacles and climbed out of the abyss, and drilled into the joints of the earth dragon. The earth dragon paused, and its body was entangled by vines. The huge head broke and fell to the ground, and there was a bang, stirring up countless water splashes. The huge body was broken into pieces, and there was no movement in an instant. Wayne and Veronica stepped onto the boulder. The earth dragon was hundreds of meters long, and any part of it was taller than the surrounding trees. From a high position, they quickly found the hiding place of the attackers. 2 figures emerged from the ground, hiding their bodies with great skill. If it weren't for the nature telling them, Wayne would not have found them at all. The 2 wore white robes, hoods covering their faces, standing in the rain, silent and oppressive. "Who are you, assassins sent by the Pope?" Wayne said sternly. "Is the Pope crazy? He killed people for a disagreement. What good does it do him to offend the Knights of Nature?" Wayne felt something was wrong, so he broke the deadlock and got information. The Pope could not care about Senna and Tubi, but he still had to give face to the Knights of Nature and sent assassins without hesitation. Did he have a cerebral thrombosis? Cut it off when it's time to cut it off. Keeping it will only get in the way. Suri said coldly, "Wayne Landau, the Pope has something to say to you, you are in the way." Seeing Virgil said nothing, he secretly said he was a coward, and he was still plotting against him at this time. The two of them appeared together today. No matter who killed the person, they were guilty of the same crime. Surrey readily admitted that he was a killer and followed the order of the second pope, so that Wayne would die with a clear conscience. He was a straightforward person, and he would take action directly when he had an idea. Regardless of Virgil, who was watching the show, he raised his 5 fingers above his head, calling for the rainstorm to turn into a torrent, and rumbling to support the high wall like a tsunami. There is no magic fluctuation. Veronica was surprised. Wayne, these two guys are very similar to you, and they are also elves who can communicate with nature. I can see it. Wayne's eyes shrank suddenly. He wanted to say just now that the two killers could communicate with nature, and they might be the great prophet's people. But the great prophet had no reason to attack him, and the old man was counting on him to take the blame so that he could live happily. Senna. No, I'm going crazy with him. I'm afraid it will melt if I put it in my mouth. Only the Pope is possible. Wayne thought about it and soon understood the reason. The inheritance of the great prophet was stolen by the Pope, and 2 assassins were secretly trained to frame the great prophet when needed. Be careful to protect yourself, these 2 guys are quite strong. Wayne's body shook and turned into a perfect elf with a height of 2 meters. He looked at the 2 assassins behind the tsunami, and his mind was free to communicate with nature. It's either me or him today. Cut off contact immediately, otherwise we will break up now and never meet again. Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 250. The tsunami swept down with overwhelming force, and the waves were like 1,000 horses galloping, carrying endless energy and destructive power, swallowing up all obstacles along the way. The trees rooted in the earth were no different from children's building blocks in front of the tsunami. A slight push would cause them to fall down in pieces, and the trees were pulled out of the ground. Wayne's eyes were full of green. On the ground more than 10 meters ahead, green vines drilled out of the ground, and after being reshaped by thinking, they turned into roadblocks in the shape of triangular arrows. The tsunami roared and hit, and huge waves hit the triangular reefs. Under the strong impact, tens of thousands of tons of water rumbled and rushed to both sides at high speed. The triangular arrow twisted, grew to half the height of the wave, split vertically from the middle, and turned into 2 natural big hands, pushing the water wall of the tsunami to both sides like pulling open a curtain. Wayne frowned and communicated with nature. Today, I was there but he was not, so let nature quickly cut off contact with the killer. The effect was average. Nature, this scumbag, wants it all, euphemistically expressing that both the palm and the back of the hand are flesh. Although Wayne is a sports student, he is young and energetic, and his future potential is unlimited. A casual perfunctory response can offset the 2 killers' exhaustion for a whole night. But the 2 killers are art students, hardworking and very nice to talk to. Even if nature ignores them, they still persist in expressing their true feelings. After talking for a long time, they are just licking dogs. Wayne secretly thought it was bad luck, and after a brief exchange, he understood what nature meant. It's not that the latter can't take sides, but that he didn't perform well enough. As a beginner, Wayne can only communicate with nature to a limited extent, and his talent is strong in the quality level. The 2 killers have limited talent and cannot communicate with nature as deeply as Wayne, but they are experienced, maintain the spirit state all year round, wander around every corner of nature, and experience more and wider worlds. Wayne can only communicate with plants now, and the 2 killers do better. Not only plants, but also the water element represented by rainwater and the earth element represented by earth dragons, they can communicate to a certain extent. Without extraordinary strengths, they use hard work to make up for the gap. This is the strength of the 2 killers. They have established a connection with nature long before Wayne. Wayne wanted to drive them away, but he could. He surpassed them in both quality and quantity, and nature broke the connection. Unable to win by tricks, Wayne could only bite the bullet and go on his own. He asked Veronica to stand still and not move. The magic power under his feet burst out, and his body rushed towards Suri like lightning. The two did not join forces at the first time, which was very chivalrous. Wayne silently remembered and warned himself not to make similar low-level mistakes in the future. Evil demons and heretics can be killed by everyone, no need to talk about the morality of the rivers and lakes. Looking at the fast-attacking Wayne, Suri was not in a hurry. His body slowly sank, and with a playful face, he opened the life barrier of the Golden Wizard level, and smiled and waited for Wayne to hit his head and bleed. Crack! The invisible barrier exploded with cracks, and the moment the fist fell, the mirror of the space was smashed to pieces. Suri was shocked, unable to keep calm, and disconnected from nature. He hurriedly dialed the number, and Wayne had already rushed in front of him. The wind and fire gathered in his fist suddenly exploded, and the fierce wind and flames were entangled, and the flame tornado roared. The elemental impact swept away the obstacles in front and disappeared at the end of the rain curtain. Within the range, white steam rose from the earth, and the raindrops could not fall. Suri failed to dial the number and could not communicate with nature. He was in a hurry to open the life barrier, but was shattered again and again, and retreated in a hurry again and again. Where did the monster come from? Is he a dragon? It is not common sense to smash the life barrier exclusive to the Golden Wizard with brute force, but it is not impossible. The world is so big that there are always some strong people who cannot be measured by common sense. But no matter how outrageous it is, the most basic truth must be told. The specific manifestation of the essence of life lies in the body of the magician. Eternal youth, strong desire, speed, strength, endurance, etc. are all manifestations. The higher the magician's realm, the stronger the essence of life. If you want to smash the life barrier with one punch, you must be a legendary magician at least. Even if you have dragon blood and are invincible in close combat, you must have the realm of a golden magician. According to the information obtained by Suri, Wayne is a silver magician with a strong essence of life. He is suspected to be a descendant of dragon blood, but he does not have the realm of a golden magician. What went wrong? Suri didn't understand why. He seriously suspected that he had been practicing for many years, but only sharpened his mind and lowered the requirements of the essence of life, which led to the imbalance of the golden triangle and the fragile life barrier. Boom! Wayne punched one punch after another, smashing the life barrier again and again, and he couldn't understand the killer's way more and more. There is nothing wrong with the golden magician, and his ability to communicate with nature is also better than his, but his practical experience is too poor, so poor that it is heartbreaking. He will be in a hurry if the rhythm is slightly disrupted, and he can't maintain the most basic communication with nature. There should be a limit to looking down on people. The Pope is probably a moron who sent such a killer to kill him. If you have the ability, continue to look down on me. Wayne punched continuously, disrupting Suri's thinking rhythm, making it impossible for him to connect with nature. He was alone in the warm embrace of nature, and the green in his eyes became more and more intense. Suri captured the scene and suddenly realized that Wayne did not have dragon blood, he was just an ordinary person. The reason why the essence of life was so terrible was that it called upon the power of nature. Suri had never seen this posture before, and hurriedly contacted Virgil, asking him to take action quickly and catch the living one for everyone to study together. Virgil was studying. This posture was not taught by the teacher, and he had seen it for the first time. Inspired by it, he thought of the possibility of integrating nature further. If he could reach that point, he might be able to break through the shackles in an instant and successfully advance to the legendary wizard. Virgil tried to think, and the possibility was very high. He saw a door that was slowly opening. He didn't care about rescuing Suri, and pushed the door and walked in. Inside the door was a vast world that he had never seen before. "I'm going to do it." Suri had no one to turn to for help, and was annoyed by Virgil's insidiousness and cunningness. In order to secure the position of the great prophet, he was not only ready to kill Wayne, but also wanted to kill him at the same time. "How could you do what you want?" The magic frenzy broke out, and Suri's white robes were blown by the wind, activating the defensive magic on the robes, and summoning the shadow of the goddess of nature to come. In an instant, the pressure that belonged to God filled the world. Veronica's shoulders sank, and she felt this heavy pressure from afar. She didn't care about marveling at the goddess's appearance. Fine white scales grew on her arms and neck, her eyes shrank into a line, and her body slowly rose. As her body grew, Veronica's temperament changed. Her golden hair fell down her shoulders, and she became more mature, transitioning from a magic girl to a magic queen. She took a step forward to help Wayne, but stopped after 2 steps with a gloomy face. Under her feet, a group of white unknown solid liquid mixtures were extremely viscous, wriggling and gathering into white meat tentacles, entangled her ankles and prevented her from leaving. Veronica recognized these disgusting things. The blood of the original body of social garbage imitated the ancient gods, and from time to time they would turn into tentacles. Although they were so ugly that she couldn't look directly at them, their life level was higher than that of the dragon. Before leaving, Wayne left part of his body as a defense. His starting point was good, but Veronica didn't like excessive protection. She was not a vase, and she didn't want a greenhouse. Out of trust in the minds of social garbage, Veronica stopped and clenched her fists in annoyance. On the other side, Wayne's elf form faced the phantom of the goddess of nature, with green blooming in his eyes. His extremely pious and pure faith made the phantom of the goddess confused. "Where is the enemy? Why can't I see it? There are only our own people. The divine art is just a shell and can't be relied on at all." This surprised Suri. She changed to manual casting, controlled the divine art with her mind, and launched a carpet-style saturation attack on Wayne. Green light gun shadows washed the ground, reversely depriving vitality, and feeding the extracted vitality back to nature, achieving balance from the overall level. Wayne was illuminated by the green light and shadow, and his vitality was taken away. Because of the communication with nature, he was in balance. The next second, the lost vitality was sent back to his body by nature. Suri was stunned, shocked by nature's preference for Wayne. After a moment of daze, the number he dialed was disconnected again. Wayne was also stunned. There was a consumption of vitality between transmissions. In order to prevent a reduction of 3 days of life, he hurriedly took a breath to add 5 days of life. At this time, the hood covering the face of Suri fell down, revealing a handsome elf appearance. He was determined to kill Wayne and regarded the latter as a dead man. He didn't care about showing his true face. Seeing that the magic was useless, he started again. Snap! Wayne was as fast as lightning. He smashed the life barrier with a punch. At the moment when Suri pulled away, his arm stretched out like a long snake and tightly grasped his palm. Suri was slightly stunned, wrapped the wind blade with one hand, and the palm knife fell, cutting off Wayne's arm. "What on earth are you?" Looking at the severed hand that was tightly holding her wrist, Suri couldn't help but feel numb. There was no blood, no vitality, and the severed hand gradually turned pale and even melted. Suri thought of the void life, and the doubts in her mind were solved in an instant. Wayne's flesh and blood merged with the star beast, which was essentially out of the concept of human beings. So the essence of life is not in line with common sense. After figuring out the key, Suri laughed out loud, mocking himself and Virgil for thinking too much. Even teachers can make mistakes sometimes. Wayne is not a human being at all and cannot sit in the position of the great prophet. This laughter was too proud, and he did not notice that the melted broken hand was attached to the white robe and moved towards his neck as if it had consciousness. You are not human, you are a magical life created by the Windsor division. Taboo alchemy can only have bad consequences in the end. Surrey gritted his teeth and concluded. Wayne was no longer a threat, and his killing intention faded. I didn't expect you to see it. In this way, I can die with my eyes closed. Wayne's eyes were blank, and his body disintegrated into white flesh. His boneless body melted softly, leaving a pool of white matter, 2 rings, and a piece of clothes transformed from Asian dragon scales. Died already? What did I do? Surrey was numb, and she looked at the white flesh with vigilance to prevent fraud, and stepped back repeatedly. Here. A gloomy voice came from her ears, and Circe's eyes shrank suddenly, and she hurriedly opened the life barrier. It was too late. The white tentacles had taken root in Circe's body, blending with his skin along the epidermis. A large amount of white foam grew, accompanied by chaotic and disordered whispers, pouring into his mouth, nose, ears, and eyes, and rushing straight to his internal organs and brain. Ah! Circe held her head and wailed in pain, rushing towards Virgil like crazy, and making a shrill cry for help while running. Veronica! So disgusting, he won't turn into a tentacle monster at night? Instead of marrying such a guy, it's better to give it to Villy, the tentacle monster and Villy are more suitable. Virgil, save me. Save me quickly, he's in my head. Circe's mind was confused, unable to maintain the elf form, and staggered to Virgil. Feeling the tentacles wriggling under the skin, he pressed his fingers hard and easily tore off the almost melted skin. There was no blood flowing, and the pink and white texture was exposed. Tentacles as long as fingers twisted slowly. Sexy grabbed the tentacles and tore them apart. More and more tentacles came out of the flesh until his eyes burst into crystals and several tentacles stretched out from his eye sockets. His thoughts and whispers shouted softly together, and the whole person calmed down. He gradually understood everything. Vigil ignored the strange changes in Sexy in front of him. His mind was not in his body. He stood there like a wooden stake. His mind entered the vast world and swam freely, and he was addicted to it. Sexy was not a legendary magician, and Virgil was not either. Since they showed their talents, they were trained by Tubi as great prophets. Tubi had been trying to pass the buck for too long. The teaching of the 2 students has always been based on natural communication as the top priority, and the realm of magicians has become secondary, so that after 100 years, the 2 gifted students are still wandering at the gold level. The difference is that Surrey is really wandering around, while Virgil has learned to question his teacher, secretly make up lessons for himself, and touched the bottleneck of the legendary wizard. Just now, Virgil mistakenly thought that Wayne could call on the power of nature to change the essence of life, and was inspired to find his own way. He ushered in his own transformation, his magic realm went a step further, and his life barrier evolved and upgraded to a life force field. This is a field that looks like the void, forged with thoughts and has infinite possibilities. The wrong guess got the right result. It has to be said that this guy is indeed a genius, and the great prophet delayed him. It also shows that he is only one step away from becoming a legendary wizard, and he deserves to be promoted today. Ouch! Surrey rushed towards Virgil and covered his face with tentacles. The handsome elf was inserted into the mouth, nose, ears, and eyes by the tentacles, and his hands and feet trembled and twitched, and soon there was no movement. Surrey's mind has collapsed, and unless a medical miracle happens, he can't be saved. Virgil's thoughts roamed outside his body, and were pulled back by the tentacles along the open door. He heard whispers in his ears and collapsed right after Circe. On the first day of becoming a legendary wizard, his thoughts had not yet begun to transform. 2 white-robed men with tentacles on their faces stood quietly, their fragmented thoughts unable to think independently. But they answered whatever they asked. Veronica looked out for a long time, and approached carefully with the tentacle wrapped around her calf. When she got close, the tentacle landed, crawled up Virgil's body, and merged into his face. Tentacles add 1. Veronica's disdain add 1. After a while, the white foam fell to the ground, squirming into a vague human figure. After the facial features became clear, Wayne's appearance gradually became clear. Great, it's easy to get it? I asked about the cultivation method of the great prophet's lineage. Wayne raised his hand to praise and smiled at Veronica. Silver teeth flashed. JPG. Hey, Veronica, you've become more beautiful. Veronica had no expression on her face and didn't react to the compliment. Wayne didn't understand why. Raindrops fell on him and he suddenly realized that he was naked. No wonder your eyes are so wide. Wayne, W. Bang. Wayne was punched in the face and honestly picked up his clothes and put them on. He returned to the 2 living plants, pondered for a moment, and then used 4 elemental magics. Earth wall furnace, high temperature of flames, strong wind pressure, and heavy water washing the ground. Clean and clean, without any trace. Sexy and Virgil have achieved the highest achievement of the great prophet's lineage, returning to nature, integrating into nature, and forever inseparable from nature. Look at this realm, they are really too strong. Look at your face, it's really annoying. Veronica thought of Wayne's protection just now, her eyes were slightly red, and she punched him in anger. Wayne covered his nose, blood spurted out from his fingers, and he gave Veronica a look, his face pale, and he fell weakly towards her chest. Veronica caught Wayne, but she didn't understand what happened for a while, until the air wave behind her roared and exploded, and then she had some realization. Wayne, are you okay? Wake up, don't scare me. In the heavy rain, Veronica sat on the ground, hugging her brother, and her clothes on her chest were stained red with blood. Senna came to the 2 with a murderous look on her face. Seeing this scene, she was so scared that her breathing stopped. She hurried forward to check and confirmed that Wayne was just confused and his life was not in danger, so she breathed a sigh of relief. Veronica, what's going on? Who attacked you? There are 2 elves, both of whom can communicate with nature, and are more powerful than Wayne. Veronica's eyes were red, and she tried hard to speak. She tried several times but couldn't shed tears. This actor has average talent and limited future achievements. If it were Willie, she would have hugged brother Wayne and cried loudly, kissed and swore that she would never marry. Fortunately, God gave face, and the rain slid down Veronica's face, and the small pearls were strung on the string, and the 2 pearl necklaces kept flowing. Elves who can communicate with nature. Senna's eyes were fierce, and she thought of the great prophet Tube, and asked, what are their names, and what magic did they use? Veronica shook her head, and Wayne in her arms spoke weakly, Teacher Senna, one of them is named Virgil, and the other is unknown, they want to kill me. Wayne spoke intermittently, taking several breaths for each paragraph, and finally he was really out of strength, and tilted his head against Veronica's chest. Too weak, panting heavily. Asshole, I'll let you suck enough at once. Veronica's mouth twitched, and she hugged Wayne's head tightly against her chest, her body trembling, and she was already extremely sad. Be gentle, he is very weak now. Senna hurriedly stopped her, fearing that Veronica would get excited and accidentally kill her brother. She took Wayne and held him in her arms, gently stroking the back of his head. Virgil is a student of the great prophet Tubi, and the other attacker should also be a student of the great prophet Tubi, named Suri, who was sent by the great prophet to kill you. Remember to stay away from him in the future, the old guy is full of lies, don't give him a chance to quibble. Having said that, Senna has kicked Tubi out of the scope of suspicion and strongly suspected that the Pope was the mastermind behind the scenes. Kill Wayne by taking advantage of Suri and Virgil's jealousy, and then frame Tubi for the crime. Either you don't win, or you win twice. Wayne, Where are the two elves? I don't know, they seemed to have a disagreement. I barely stopped one of them, and the other was about to kill him, and then you, Teacher Senna, appeared, and then... Wayne spoke in a muffled voice. The pressure here was too great, and it was difficult to speak. I understand, cultivate yourself, I will seek justice for you. Senna's face was full of frost.